Big energy.
Let's go. Welcome, everybody. It is a wonderful Wednesday, and I'm excited to have you all here. Drew and I are ready to go. We are locked and loaded, and the big, beautiful bill got approved in the Senate. Elon's going ham, though. If you guys aren't watching this, you need to be seeing what is happening. Sparks are flying. He promises to primary every fiscal conservative who said that they were going to vote for reductions, but instead have voted for the big, beautiful bill. So stay tuned to that drama. RFK claims that the CDC buried a study linking hepatitis B vaccine to an 1,100% increase in autism. That one is going to be interesting to watch as they do the science there, and hopefully we finally get some real answers about what is going on. Trump himself calls Candace Owens to ask a favor. You guys are going to want to hear what that favor is. It's crazy. That story is crazy. Meta is throwing around a lot of money, building an all-star team of super intelligence to push AI forward. That one is, that's going to shape the future of not only America, but the world for a long time to come. So obviously going to be talking about AI. UPenn strips trans swimmer of all their medals and vows to conform to Trump mandate. We'll see if more people fall in line with that. And Bob Vylan gets himself in trouble at the Glastonbury Music Festival for some wild chanting. Drew, welcome.
We're here.
Happy Wednesday.
The big, beautiful bill narrowly passed. It was a midnight vote-a-rama, 27 hours.
Let's go.
You're a hard worker. Have you ever worked like a 12, 14, 16-hour day, like all day in the warehouse?
I can't tell if you're kidding. Drew, my average day is, so if I sleep for 6 hours, that means my average day is 18 hours. I work 18 hours all the time. Whether factory, no factory, doesn't matter.
Quest, no quest, now, last week, 2 years ago.
Literally.
Yeah.
I think if you want to get things done in life, one of the secret unlocks is to just spend a lot of time on it. So not a lot of sympathy for the politicians who have a nice, comfy existence.
Well, J.D. Vance had to do the tie-breaking vote, and it is official. The big, beautiful bill has got through Senate. Now it still has one more hurdle to go in the House. But this is the bill. There's a lot of speculation about what's actually in it, what's actually not. There's been kind of this assembly line effect. So in the House, that's when they had the AI regulations. That's when they had the no Medicaid for illegals. That's when they had a lot of the things that Trump campaigned on. By the time it got to a Senate, a lot of those things got stripped out, as Senate does. They will and deal just so they could get the votes. So this is what we know is officially in this version of the bill. Again, the House has one more chance to update it. So this might not even be the final version of it. But one thing's for certain, it adds $5 trillion to the debt limit, the debt ceiling. The state and local tax deduction has been increased to $40,000 for 5 years, then drops down to $10,000. No tax on tips. That's something that Trump campaigned on. No tax on overtime, and no tax on car loan interest through.
Can we pause for a second? No tax on tips, and especially no tax on overtime is dope. That's dope.
Yes. I would have liked it if it didn't cut Medicaid and SNAP to pay for it, but yes, it is dope. I think that this is my...
Now, when you say that it cut SNAP and Medicaid, doesn't it just put requirements? Like you have to work 80 hours a month or something like that to... Why don't you like that?
This is my rub, right? If we were looking at this bill kind of like...
Who earned that? I feel judged right now, Drew. I'm not sure what to do with that.
I think that like the amount that we had to cut in quote unquote entitlements, and there was also like they reconfigured the Social Security payments, so people are going to be seeing a lower percent of Social Security payments and things like that in order to offset the increased prices. However, when we turn over to like the new spending, a lot of it is happening in the defense sector. We had it $150 billion in new defense.
Okay, but hold on. Yeah. Why do you mind people having to work to qualify for benefits?
I don't mind that people have to work to qualify for benefits. They increase the amount. So people already have to work to qualify for benefits. They just increase the amount of hours.
To 80.
To 80.
I do 80 by Thursday.
Yeah, Tom. But you're also not 65 and on your 30th decade of working and on disability.
Yeah, but do you really want to
work part-time?
Whoa. You're picking like a really fringe person. If you've got disability, it's a different story. But I'm saying, and I think they even have called out if you are able-bodied, then fill in blank.
Yeah. Able-bodied people, like if you're a 30-year-old who is
You're
not
65.
I want to protect the 65-year-olds. My mom is 66. My dad's 80 something. Like there's a lot of like, I am super sensitive to the older generation, even though they screwed us with a bunch of other things. Forget the boomers, but still, like that isn't fair for them to then have to work more. Also,
when you say it's not fair for them, what do you mean?
That their fundamental requirement that they agreed to before, like it's almost like you're entering into a contract and then that contract is now changing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, be careful what you vote for. If you vote for something that you know will bankrupt the country and there is no way to continue to pay for that, you are in a weakened position. I will just tell everybody right now, guess what you're voting for? You are voting for having the rug pulled out from under you when you get older if you don't die violently. Like that's what you're voting for. Raising the debt ceiling by $5 trillion is saying, I don't care that we are going to bankrupt this country, which will be violent, which I think people lose sight of. At some point, it's a beautiful deleveraging. And a beautiful deleveraging is a really, it's super spinny because it's bad. You're taking some of the things that I rail against all the time and you're saying, yeah, some of the wealth has to be redistributed. I got it. You're going to have to print some money. Yep, I understand. But you also have to do some austerity measures. And so there is just a hard reality to be faced about where we are at as a country. Money has physics. And while I get it, I don't love it either. And look, my mom, for reasons that I'm not even I have a guess. I think it was having to do with meaning and purpose. But my mom, because of me, who clearly did not need to work, kept working well into her 70s. So it's like, to some extent, work ethic is just a thing. Finding meaning and purpose in your job and culturally not convincing everybody that work is for suckers. We got to get people back on track from a cultural perspective about hard work is amazing, and finding something that you can do well into your 70s to continue to contribute to society is going to become critically important. And so from where I'm sitting, just looking at the math, that you expecting people to be able to retire in their 60s just isn't going to keep being a thing. It's just not. And so at some point, you've got to, I don't want to bamboozle somebody. So if they thought they were going to be able to retire at 65, like, okay, let's try to figure out a way where we're pushing it back for people that aren't like right at the finish line. But even if we got to push it for people right at the finish line, we got to do what we got to do. This is a math equation. Yeah.
And they're already doing that. For example, like Social Security is a sliding scale. So my mom specifically, I know if she would have retired at 65, she would have got like $1,000 a month. If you retire at 67, it goes up to like $1,700 a month. And then if you retire at 70, it goes up to like $2,300 a month. So they're already incentivizing you to stay in the workforce longer. But that's the thing. I'm not, whether it comes down to Social Security, I already know that's a scam and it's not available for my generation. So that's not my hill to die on. But it's one of those things that we didn't necessarily, like there's two ways to make money, right? To pay for things. You can cut stuff or you can increase spending. Those are the two ways to like make something happen. And I think in this specific bill, yes, no tax on overtime is dope. And yes, no tax on tips is dope. However, in order to pay for that, instead of saying we're going to cut the bloated place that fails an audit for 10 years, that hasn't once, the Pentagon has never came out and said, my bad guys, this is where all the money goes. We're going to give them more money. And this place over here where people are actually getting benefits, again, the old, the sick, the disabled, we're going to make it a little bit harder for you to get especially.
Yeah, okay, let me make a pitch. I don't know this is why Trump is doing this, but certainly you could map his behaviors to this and it would make complete sense. Trump is looking at the future and he realizes the likelihood that we end up in a kinetic war with China is way too high. And if you're not prepared for a kinetic war with China, you dramatically increase the likelihood that it happens. So us building something like an Iron Dome becomes increasingly important as more and more countries have the ability to launch things at you from distance. We're going to need EMP technology to make sure that drone swarms can't come over here and decimate things. Like, this is just, you need to be able to protect yourself. Now, if this kind of spending were going on when we were still mired in Iraq or in Afghanistan, then I would have a much bigger beef with it. But while I definitely am nearly violently opposed to anything that increases the budget, spending on the military at this exact moment, yeah, I get that. Now, being able to pass an audit, that seems critically important to me. But America has already said we want no accountability. We are opposed, literally violently opposed. We will burn things to the ground if you try to hold government responsible, which is insane. And everyone who has that vibe should be quite literally ashamed of themselves. That's so crazy. That's so crazy. I cannot believe that people create a mental model that allows them to justify not like they want an aggressive IRS, like all up in everybody's business, and they don't want a similar function for the U.S. government. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then next beef, maybe you can help me rationalize this. We're roughly adding $95 billion to support border enforcement. That's in new ICE agents. That's to complete the border wall, and that's to hire new actual like agents. He has reduced border crossings from, let's call it open to 99% closed, right? Yep. Why do we need $100 billion if we already have it 0%?
I'm guessing this is for him to go out and get the people that are already here and get them out. That's my assumption. Now, if there's been talk, I've literally heard nothing about what they plan to do with the money that they're increasing for border security. The next 10 years of America's life is going to be defined by two things: debt and values. You are going to be in a war for a cultural war, that is the right language, over what does it mean to be an American? What are the values that we're going to say we don't tolerate here? What are going to be the things that we allow? And so step number one is you've got to block off that, and then you've got to figure out what you're going to do with the people that are here, especially given the economic crisis that we're in. If you have people that are in the country illegally and they are drawing off of your services, which they are, then you've got to have a plan for that. And so just like if you were running a household and you were having a hard time putting your kids through school and making ends meet, and every now and then you were asking your kids to skip a meal, and then in the basement you realize that you've got 6 neighbor kids, at some point you got to be like, what are we doing here? So neighbor kids need to be taken care of by their parents. And that's not America. Many Americans are going to have a stroke over that kind of thinking. That is where we are. We are not able to feed our kids at every meal. And so at some point you do go, the family is the right unit of analysis. And in this analogy, the country is the family. And you got to be like, hey, I hope all these people do well, but we just can't take care of everybody.
Copy that. Marisha Dark just gave us the super chat. Sorry, Mesa, no, I'm stepping on you, but it's relevant to the conversation.
Super chat.
He said laws on rape and murder are handled at the state level. Most things are less important than that. That's an interesting way to start. Welfare is 2/3 of the entire federal budget, more than even defense. We need a 4-year plan to hand welfare back to the states. The reason I wanted to bring this up right now in this moment is because I think that that's the narrative that Trump and the Republicans have done a great job of pushing, is that we can't balance this budget because of welfare. It's y'all that are taxing the system. It's not us. If we didn't have any Social Security, the budget will be flat. And to me, that's wrong. And I think that that's misleading.
It's wrong logistically, or it's wrong morally?
Logistically.
Okay, so you're saying this needs to be handled at the state level. It should be handled at the state level. And the federal government needs to stop taking credit for that. Stop crying hardship because of that.
Yes.
But the federal budget is going towards entitlements.
When we actually go through the budget itself, right? So yes, we see, I have it pulled up here on Gemini. So 22% goes to Social Security. You got me on that. Social Security direct payments, there's no beef. The Social Security bureaucracy, maybe, but that's it. But when we start to dive into like Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, we aren't paying individuals directly. We're paying institutions. There's subsidies. These are going to hospitals. So to say that these are welfare payments, it's disingenuous because it's not going to a senior who gets $1,000 a month to then pay for their health insurance. It goes to the hospital. And when the hospital realizes that the federal government is paying for something, it empowers them to charge 2x, 3x,
agreed,
and things like that. So,
but why do you say it's disingenuous? So this is a problem. You have a nation of morbidly obese people that are weighing on the system, regardless of the fact that we further exacerbate it by sending it to effectively a business. And the business goes, oh, word? Like, you're paying for this and you'll bail it out. You'll print more money. I know that this money is always coming. No problem. You still have to pull those funds eventually.
But that's what I'm thinking. I think that this is an incentive problem, not a welfare problem. So instead of...
okay, so welfare is a trigger for you in a way that I don't have a map for.
Welfare is not a trigger for me. I don't have any reliance on welfare. I've never
But
been
why-
on welfare. My family never been
So
on welfare.
here. That's
No.
not what I was saying.
No, I'm just
Here's
saying, I have no
here's what
relationship.
I'm saying is there's a distinction you're trying to make by calling it welfare that I don't understand.
Yeah, because a lot of times they think when we have but government budget is $4 trillion, right? $2 trillion is going to welfare payments. So when we have that language, a lot of times people think it's the same as Social Security, because Social Security is direct checks to people,
Right.
where Medicaid, CHIP, and Medicare are not direct payments to people. And that's the thing I'm trying to...
Okay, but why does that matter? There's a reason that matters to you.
Because I think just like we're right now negotiating with pharmaceutical companies that they have to charge us the lowest rate that they charge the other countries, we can have those same conversations with the institutions, with the hospitals, with the pharmaceutical, with the medical suppliers. So that way we can now lower our Medicaid, Medicare, and CHIP percentage of the budget that we actually spend.
Okay, I love all of that, but I'm still trying to get to what your real beef is. So you're saying, hey, stop calling it welfare because you're tricking the voters, and now they're not pressuring you, everybody, to do the real thing you need to do, which is negotiate better.
Yes, which is the government
Got
should
it.
be negotiating better. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Yep, that all makes sense to me. I still don't have a beef with calling it welfare because what I want people to hold in their mind is we're giving away a ton of free stuff. We have created a culture where people come with their hand out. We have created a culture that is totally blind to the reality of how tax dollars are generated. And because people are totally blind to how tax dollars are generated and they feel entitled that the government should be giving them money for everything, you get fiscal problems that will make their lives worse in ways that they literally can't imagine because they think that America couldn't go broke. Not only can America go broke, as of right now, it is a mathematical certainty that America will go broke. And I'm talking like in the next 5 to 10 years. So again, this is mathematical certainty. And I'm often reminded of Peter Attia, who stops being an oncologist, starts working in actuarial science, running the math. He looks this is probably like back in 2006, and he looks at what's happening in the subprime mortgage space, and he was like, oh, all these banks are going to go out of business. And the guy that he works for was like, what do you mean? And he was like, it is a mathematical certainty, whatever, more than a year in advance. There is no way for them to avoid becoming insolvent. They're going out of business. And so what I'm saying is, hey, that same thing has already happened. The patient has been shot. It is bleeding out. If you don't stop the bleeding, the patient dies. Not maybe, it dies. And so now we're just watching the blood leak out. And so the way that the government will respond to this is entirely knowable. And that way is that they will print money. And they will print money, and that will devalue the dollar. It will further inequality, and the inequality, ironically, becomes the only thing people pay attention to, and then they start actually shooting people across the aisle from them. Just as a reminder, we're already doing that, and it is so predictable. So at some point, to stop that from happening, you have to stop spending the money. It's not the only thing. Ray Dalio, beautiful deleveraging. It's the only way. It's all 4 levers. You have to pull all 4 levers. But one of them is austerity, and you cannot keep spending that money. So it doesn't matter like who we're worried are going to get hurt. I can't remember the first time that this occurred to me, but it was years ago when I was like, oh, our problem is as Americans, the culture has become no one can be left behind. Some people have to get left behind. Until you're willing to let some people get left behind, what you're saying is everyone will get left behind just a couple years later. And it feels gross even to say that out loud. It's the math.
In your opinion, what do you think is the austerity that America needs right now? If there was a first cut or a first pass that you think we should start with, do you agree with kind of Trump's direction that he's trying to do with the big beautiful bill? Like, do you think we're going in that like direction?
I'd have to really get into the details of the big beautiful bill. So I will just say at a philosophical level, you have to look at where you spend the most money. And where you spend the most money are entitlements, interest, military. If you're not talking about those three things, you're just not talking about anything real. And so this was people's beef with Doge from the jump, was like, bro, you're in discretionary spending. Discretionary spending is like 22% of the budget. It's not going to get you there. So yeah, you are roughly $2 trillion in deficit spending every year over the next 5 years, because if you do this instantly, you will break the economy. So even though this is what has to be done, even the sort of lunatic about like, we've got to stop spending money. Yeah. You can't do it immediately. But let's say over the next 5 years, you have to get to a balanced budget, period, end of story. And so you can build something that says, we're going to do it all in growth. And Lord knows, I hope that is true. But you have to have milestones along the way where you say, okay, I am not going to assume I suddenly get exponential growth. So assuming a linear map, where do I need to be in 6 months? If I'm not there, I need to start cutting. Okay, so we didn't hit our goals. We missed by 22%. Great, you got to cut 22% of where you thought you would be in that 6 month period. Okay, so we make a minor reduction somewhere. And you just keep cutting until whatever the reality is, 5 years from now, you've gotten to that point. And some of this is going to have to be, you're going to have to start forgiving some debt. Again, you want to do it slowly. And these are things that I hate. So you hear me rail against this kind of thing, and I'm saying you still have to do some of it. Yeah. So you're going to have to do some wealth redistribution. You are going to have to do some debt forgiveness. You are going to have to do some austerity, and you're going to have to do money printing. You have to pull all four levers. Those are the only four levers that exist. You have to pull all of them. Everyone is going to hurt somebody. I'm going to get hurt by one of the levers. Everybody that can hear my voice is going to get hurt by one or multiple of the levers. It is what it is. But we have to have our eye on the prize. And our eye on the prize is homes must be affordable, because it's the only way for the average person to avoid inflation. And then we have to get out from under the debt. You can't have, and Balaji, if you're not following Balaji, you've got to start following Balaji. Debt forgiveness, LOL. T. Krupp, we got to talk about why I think that's LOL. And he's right that when we talk about the debt, all we ever talk about is government debt, but there's way more than government debt. There's individual debt, there's corporate debt, and you put it all together and it's like $175 trillion. So this is a major problem. History is very clear on what has to be done. History is very clear on what happens if you don't do it. And right now, the political realities, as evidenced by Trump's own tweet to all of my fiscal conservatives out there who want to spend less money, I'm one of you. But the reality is, remember, all caps, we must get reelected. Don't go too crazy, all caps. That is so honest. Like, he really cannot help himself. He just says the thing.
The quiet part out loud.
Yeah, it's I'm fascinated by it.
This is the tweet he's referring to. For all cost-cutting Republicans, of which I am one, remember, you still have to get reelected. Don't go too crazy. We'll make it up all 10 times with growth more than ever before.
Yeah, I was wrong about don't go too crazy in all caps. That was how my brain remembered it. But yeah, so I hope we make it up with growth. But the reality is that you got to prove that before you can just keep spending. So Argentina is actually doing a reasonably good job at this. Now, I want to be very clear. He's a controversial figure, even in his own country. I think he has 45% approval rating, so more people disapprove than approve. But he's got numbers going in the right direction. Yeah. But he's a mixed bag. Yeah.
So a few people aren't liking your take on leaving some people behind.
People who aren't what?
Aren't liking your take on leaving some people behind.
Yeah.
And so just a couple things to respond to. A healthy and functioning government doesn't leave people behind. That's the sort of point of a
bullshit. What the fuck? This is how we've ended up here. Jesus Christ.
And then the second one is this tough love generalizing is going to do harm, and mostly kids and old people are going to suffer. It's sad. So I'm curious.
Bro, hold on. Guys, I love you, and I'm so grateful for you being here. I am well aware that this is the joy of building a community, is the back and forth, but I'm begging you, if you have a hot take, will you please put what your plan is? Don't just say what you don't want. What are you suggesting we do? If you think that I get some glee out of leaving people behind, I do not. But there is math. There is physics to money. People act like economies don't have physics and that you can just do whatever you want. And because it works for as extended of a period of time as it does, people forget you are robbing your children. And I have to say, it is weird to me that the guy with no kids seems way more concerned about the future than a lot of people with kids. And so I don't know how people are mentally mapping this. You go broke. When you go broke, people kill each other. And so if you've got pushback on that statement, I'm here for it. But unfortunately, I would rather leave some percentage of people behind with nothing but devastation in my heart that sucks than everybody go off a fiscal cliff. So there's something where people seem to just close their mind to the fact that you do go off a cliff. I don't understand. I'm not sure how you're mapping things.
I blame George Bush. No child left behind. And people took that literally.
Adventures, I don't know if you're talking about me. I literally just said the exact opposite, or if that's a reference to somebody else in the chat. But you blame George Bush for what reason?
He passed No Child Left Behind. When you're no longer allowed to fail students.
That's so crazy.
And then that mentality kind of has now like matriculated to the rest of the government.
Yes.
Like if you get an F, you shouldn't go to the next grade. You should stay in that grade.
Correct.
Yeah. But as a society then, how do we deal with that? Because this is my beef, right? A lot of people are coming at it from this. I've been working all my life. My first job was 13. Every time I've worked, I got a paycheck. Every time I look at that paycheck, I get Medicaid cuts and Social Security cuts. Yep. And I haven't been that sick or that old yet. And then now I have this president that's cutting those things. By the time we get to my generation, it's not even assumed. It's kind of a rolling joke that like by the time my generation gets to 60, we're not going to be able to like have Social Security.
And now I would like them to finish that thought out. Mm-hmm. Why is that true? And the answer is very simple. The government spends too much money. Then the next question becomes, what is the government spending too much money on? We just covered that. They are spending too much money on entitlements, interest payments, and
how are they spending the money?
Military.
Too much of the money I'm putting in. So they're not using the funds that I'm giving them correctly.
Because you're in a moment where people are voting emotionally. Nobody cares about what the knock-on effects are in the future. They just know, hold on a second. I can see that people are spending money like crazy. Given that you're spending money like crazy, you've got to give me some of that money. Mm. And so it becomes, instead of going, I'm going to fight for conservatism and say, I don't want to be deficit spending.
Conservatism meaning budget conservatism, not like you're fighting for Republican values.
Correct.
Budget
who fucking cares about that?
No,
but yes, I'm glad that you're clarifying. For sure. I could not care about that. Mm-hmm. Team sports is the danger. We live in a moment where everybody wants to be on a team. That is the mistake. But you need to be fiscally conservative, because if you don't, you drag the whole country down. If you can map out the cause and effect and you can show me exactly what the off-ramp is. So Trump is saying the off-ramp is growth. Okay, yes, that's part of it. It's just that isn't how things normally play out. Mm-hmm. There's a very noble loop that has been mapped. Ray Dalio has written literally 3 books about the subject. And the loop just repeats and repeats and repeats. And the reason it repeats is because inequality widens as debt increases and money printing takes place. For reasons I've explained 1,000 times and happy to explain again if needed. When the inequality increases, people click over into emotional reasoning. And once they're in emotional reasoning, they look at money being spent like crazy and they say, okay, I can be the chump who says, no, don't give me or my constituents any money because we want to be fiscally responsible. And nobody ever does that, because if everyone else is taking money, the only thing that makes sense is for you to fight for your piece of the pie. And that is why this always spirals out of control, because nobody wants to be the moron that when everybody else is grabbing the money goes, no, I'm going to be the one person who's responsible because it won't matter now. And so the only thing that you can do is, as money is being stolen from everybody in the form of inflation, you then have to jump into the fray and say, give me some of it, because at least then I get some of the money back that was stolen from me.
Well, Elon agrees with you. He thinks that if this insane spending bill passed, the America Party will need to be formed the next day. Our country needs an alternative to the Democratic Democrat Republican uniparty, so that way people actually have a voice. I know we said the off ramp is growth, but I am excited, and I talked to my socialist friends because this is a good
For
moment.
the record, what I said was Trump is at least offering you what he sees as the off ramp. He is over indexing on growth. Growth will be one of the things. You must do all 4 levers.
Yeah.
Period. End of story.
There is a sect of America that thinks a new political party would quote unquote solve this problem because
Yes.
people will actually have a voice, things like that. I remember you were kind of on the fence about new political parties.
Yeah, I need to research this. So I have an intuition. My intuition is often wrong. So I have no idea if I'm looking at this right, but a third party strikes me, just like when people say, hey, Mamdani is going to get elected in New York because Cuomo won't be able to sit this one out. Eric Adams, Cuomo will cancel each other out, and Mamdani will win without getting a majority. And so I'm just like, oh, God, that feels like the exact same thing that's going to play out in terms of having a third party. Also, one of my closest friends, I love this person so much. She grew up in Belgium, and she's like, we have like 7 political parties. Nothing gets done. My country's a total mess. And so that just plays on my head in a loop that, man, is it possible that 2 parties, as much as I hate it, is actually a better system because it forces them to win over more people. And a 1-party system is trash. 2-party system is bad, but certainly infinitely less bad than 1 party. But do things get better as you increase the number of parties? I only have an intuition. I've not studied this, but my intuition is that 2 parties is probably the right answer. And that 3 parties forces you into coalitions. And so now you get these uneasy alliances, think Trump and Elon, where it's like, yeah, you get together for a minute, but then you still secretly hate each other underground. And so it falls apart very fast. And so you got elected, but then you're tearing each other apart once you're in power. There's something about that strikes me again at merely an intuitive level. And I'm not a person who trusts my intuitions, but at an intuitive level that there's going to be a problem. If this seems like the right place to put my energy, I'll do research. Right now, it doesn't. And so I'm not spending a ton of time on it. But
yeah, I'm with you. I don't want it to become, we have 5 political
Jim, we
parties.
haven't talked about Candace Owens yet. No, it's coming. It's hilarious.
I get to your point. We don't want to have 5 political parties and you only have to win 15% of the vote now. And that's how you kind of get past. But I do think that we're just in this counterbalance gridlock, and I do think we need new, fresh ideas because even if you look at Republicans,
why do you think gridlock is our problem? That doesn't when that statement skims across the surface of my map of what's going on right now to the point where I'm like, I don't even disagree with it. It just doesn't. It almost doesn't seem tied to what's really happening.
Because, okay, if I can step into Tom's brain for a second, your problem is that we spend too much government spending deficit. We need to focus on.
And why does that matter?
Because debt is a cliff that we're racing off of, and it's going to erase the whole next generation.
Yes, but you're skipping something that's really important. It creates inequality. And humans have an innate fury over inequality. People will do the craziest stuff when they see that somebody has it better than them. So you, at a fundamental genetic level, you can't have the level of inequality that we have. We will kill each other. History bears that out. So inequality is just massive. It's why I'll look at someone like Mamdani and I'm like, we agree on the problem. We just violently disagree on the solution because we disagree on the cause and effect of how we got here. Like you showed me a video from something Reich. David Reich, Eric Reich, Robert Reich. Thank you. And his take is so childish. And his take is basically billionaires are mopping up all the money. That's not how it works. That's not the physics of money. So when I hear people talk about the economy, it is like a physicist going, no, you can walk out of a 10-story window. You're not going to fall. Not every time. Sometimes, yes, but not every time. It's like, what are you talking about? Gravity is real. Maybe we've given a name to a phenomenon. Maybe it's not really gravity and it's whatever, the knock-on effect of the electrical, I don't know what the fuck There's some debate about gravity. Anyway, sure. But nonetheless, we can see If you step out of a 10-story window, you are going to move towards the object with the most mass. And that object is planet Earth. And so you are going to fall towards planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And money works in the same way. Like, it has a known set of rules. And if you violate those rules, a very known set of things will happen. And inequality leads to a country tearing itself apart from the inside. So you absolutely have to stop it.
Some people are giving ranked choice voting as a solution for having a third-party system.
Maybe that's the answer.
Can you explain that? I actually have no idea what that is. And
I can explain it, but again, I haven't spent a lot of time on this. But ranked choice would be, okay, you've got 7 candidates, whatever. It isn't just choose one, it's put them in order. So my number 1 choice is Timmy, my number 2 choice is Sally, Bobby's my number 3 choice, and then they get points based on all the gazillions of people that voted for them. And like, if you get 5 points for being in first, you get 3 points for being in second, so on and so forth. Then you just tally up the number. And it's like, okay, across everybody, oddly enough, it's Jeremy that wins. Because even though Jeremy was hardly on anybody's radar, he's like the least offensive candidate. So a bunch of people put him in 5th place. And so the math just works out that he's not a love or hate candidate. And so he's the one that goes through. Now, again, I have not spent time looking at that. And so I don't know if people have tried that and we see, does it actually yield good results? Or do you always get the milquetoast guy that nobody's for or against? Going back to the fears that Alexander Hamilton had around Washington failing to get elected because there would be a spoiler candidate. Because originally it was whoever came in second place, whoever came in first place became the president, whoever came in second place became the vice president. So they didn't run as a ticket. It was just sequential voting. And there were some real bizarre political shenanigans that were born out of that. And so given that there are knock-on effects that I just have not looked at, I don't know if that's a great answer and maybe the solution, or is a terrible thing that creates very weird political realities.
No, it's the only way to make viable third parties and fourth parties win. Because that's the thing. Right now, it's politically hard to get a third party even on the ballot. Like the Libertarian Party, they have their government blessing that they're allowed to exist, but they're allowed to exist because they're 1% of the population. After that, you have to get, just like what RFK just went through, you have to go through an insane primary process. You have to get a certain amount of votes to even be recognized federally as an initial party. So I think if we were to kind of click that switch and have it be possible that more political parties can form, we can have them. But to your point, if it just becomes you have one choice against 5 different people, everybody's going to default, well, I don't want Trump to win, so let me just make sure the establishment anti-Trump wins. Or I don't want this socialist to win, so let me just make sure the establishment Republican wins. But ranked choice voting kind of forces you to say, okay, this is my first choice, this is my second choice, this is my third choice, and that aggregate of everybody having their ranked voting actually, to me, that's a better way because it allows people to say who I prefer versus this person or the highway. And I think this lesser of two evils is what's been keeping us in this death loop for the last 10 years. We need to stop doing the lesser of two evils, and we need to start saying, I'm excited for this political party. And that's my whole gridlock. I think with 2 parties, as long as I'm anti-you, I'm good. And I don't have to come up with new solutions. I don't have to come up with but a new party to become viable, they're going to have to, it's just like a entrepreneur, right? If I'm trying to take over Ford, I can't just come up with another car that looks just like them that's blue. I need to come up with another car that's more technology, that's innovative, that's something that we haven't seen before, like Tesla, and disrupt the system. And I think we need another party to come and disrupt this political system.
Interesting. Yeah, my take is different. My take is you're in a populist moment. In populist moments, it's all about emotion. It's all about electing a strong man. This is a psychological principle that you can see going back literally for thousands of years. You're up against the physics of economies and the way that the human mind works. I don't know.
How do you balance those two things? The two things of historical precedent, and it happens this way. It's always going to be that way. With humans have agency and we can radically change our lives at a decision.
I don't have to make those two things work because humans don't have agency. We live in a deterministic universe and humans are automata. I cannot stop myself from the sentences that I'm speaking right now. It just is what it is. That really is the truth. Now, I don't spend a lot of time there because that frame of reference, obviously, I can't stop myself from spending time there because it's just how my mind works. But in terms of why I would say, even though I think that that is true, living your life as if it's true doesn't make any sense. You should live your life as if you have all the free will and autonomy in the world. You don't, provably so. But again, acting like you're an automata is just going to make things worse. So I don't spend a lot of time talking about it.
Man, that is that's a joyous way to put it. Thanks for
really
thanks for adding sunshine to the room, Tom. I
Here's the
appreciate
thing.
it. Nice.
If you guys want to explore it, because don't take my word for it, read the book Determined by, oh God, what is his name? He is a Stanford professor, Sapolsky, Robert Sapolsky. Read that book. It's crazy. Like, you'll think you have, bro, he hasn't thought about this. That's chapter 7. Well, there's no way he thought about that. It's chapter 11. It's coming. It's crazy. He takes it all from quantum indeterminism to just like good old fashioned brain science. He really goes at it from every angle and leaves you nowhere to go.
I want to read the book before I respond. So I'm going to read the book, and then I'm going to go through the books, and I'm like, oh, this chapter 7 was bullshit. Chapter 11 was bullshit.
Yeah, hit me with it, man, if you've got it. Julie, unfortunately, I agree with you. But Zach thinks it's a nonsense book. Zach, you got to point to chapter 11 is coming.
Chapter 11.
Yeah,
that's chapter 11 for US is definitely coming.
Yeah, but Zach, tell me exactly why it's a nonsense book. I'd love to hear it.
Capitalism creates excess. The distribution of that excess creates inequalities.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know what he's talking about. Honestly, I don't think he does either. But if he can walk me through the cause and effect, then listen, I want to know what's real. So if he actually sees something that he thinks I'm missing, everybody else that's researched this is missing, if he thinks that he can create something that allows us to look back at history and be like, oh my God, this maps more closely, that would literally be a benefit to humanity. So I'm always open to being wrong, but Rotor, it's Determined by Robert Sapolsky.
Kaya Pula, I hope I pronounced your name right. They said, please help me understand. So if everything is predetermined, then what the hell does it matter that we change anything? Genuinely curious.
I'll give a really brief answer. I don't find this topic very interesting. If everything is predetermined, then you couldn't stop yourself from asking that question, just like I can't stop myself from pushing back. But just because things are, not predetermined, deterministic, just because things are deterministic doesn't mean that by putting an idea out into the world that you can't influence other people. You can and do, and all of us. And I think this is what confuses people, because we know we've all been changed by an idea that we encountered, or we finally get disciplined one day or whatever. We think, see, I can change. But the reality is you're a response machine. You are a chemical processing plant that your brain works in a certain way and you respond to stimulus in a certain way. And so, yeah, that just is what it is. But if you really had free will, it's funny, they're not going to like this. If you really had free will, you could think like an octopus. But you can't, because you don't have free will.
You can think like an octopus.
Yeah, go for it. Be attracted to other octopi.
If I really had
change your
free
colors,
will, I can think like an are you saying octopi have free will?
No, I'm saying
I can change my mental framing to have thoughts like a octopi has thoughts.
Yeah.
Do they have thoughts?
Yes, aggressively.
What do octopi think about?
Probably crab. A lot of crab and self-protection. Do you think animals don't have thoughts?
Of course not. No, they don't have thoughts.
What? You don't think animals have thoughts?
No, I don't.
Oh my. Okay, I'm not going to take us down the path. That is fascinating. Fractal.
I'm here. Yeah, I don't think they have thoughts.
We earned that one.
I think if they have thoughts, then they can create plans. And then once they can create plans, they can create like...
Bro, will you watch my octopus teacher, please? These motherfuckers plan. They use tools.
Yeah, that's survival. Do they pay rent?
They
has an occupy
they have a different economy, Drew. How about that?
I'm just saying. Have they
so thoughts for you are only you have to be able to invent something, because then the vast majority of humans don't have thoughts.
Invent something, yes, because you can invent, like you can plan your day. You can
planning is very different than inventing something.
Yeah,
octopus plan like that for sure. Have you seen some of the escapes that they do out of zoos and stuff? It's crazy. There is a movement right now that octopi are so smart that it's immoral to eat them because they may be sentient creatures in a very similar way to us.
Yeah, if they were.
So anyway, this really is practical.
I haven't seen an octopi Tesla yet, so I don't know.
Yet is the key word there, Drew. They just don't have a good hiring plan yet, and they only live for 18 months. So
they live for 18 months. That's hilarious. I'm not funny, but man, how would your life be different if you only lived for 18 months? I'm sorry, we have a plan. And stuff.
It would be very different.
At hour 3, we're coming back to that question. Okay,
Terry G, I'm with you.
RFK tells Tucker Carlson the CDC buried its own internal study that showed a 1,135% increase in autism risk from hepatitis B vaccinations. This is straight from the horse's mouth. Let's hear it.
What you would do if you wanted to find the answer, which is to compare outcomes in a fully vaccinated group to health outcomes in an unvaccinated group. And CDC did that study in 1999. They brought in a team of scientists under a Belgian researcher named Thomas Verstraeten, and they looked at the data. They looked at children who had received the hepatitis vaccine within the first 30 days of life, and compared those children to children who had received the vaccine later or not at all. And they found an 1,135% elevated risk of autism among the vaccinated children. And it shocked them. They kept the study secret, and then they manipulated it through 5 different iterations to try to bury the link. And, we know how they did it. They got rid of all the older children, essentially, and just had younger children who were too young to be diagnosed. And they stratified the data, and they did a lot of other tricks. And all of those studies were the subject of that kind of trickery.
To me, like when I hear this, I kind of have like a visceral reaction to it because I just think that we keep coming to this position of we have to trust the experts. The experts are going to walk us through and do these things. And then we hear stories of experts manipulating the data, manipulating the origin of things, and kind of flipping it. What is your like initial response when you hear something like that from like RFK, Tom?
You got to do the studies. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that this is very smart. Something is going wrong. The rates of autism are absolutely through the roof. And the fact that people are resistant to looking at this is completely maddening. I think that this is a human hubris problem. I think this is an ego problem. I think this is I got to protect my career problem. I think this is a money has a way of messing with people's heads problem. Like this is just a problem in many, many different ways. Anybody that wants to stop him from sussing this stuff out, I just don't understand. You need to look at this. You need to figure this out. Full stop, period.
Multiple people are saying that this study has been debunked and you need to fact check it. What have you done that? Or
he continues to talk about that. Well,
he literally just said, we need to run the study. Great. Hey, everybody, that test doesn't make any sense. That test, it's garbage. Cool. Then listen to the first words out of his mouth, that you would do a study where you take a vaccinated population against an unvaccinated population. You figure out what the answer is. We need to run studies. Yeah, word. Anybody have beef with that?
Some people are just saying, but it's already been studied. And so what would you say back to that? Like, why does this mean more studies need to happen and not just we can either throw that one out or...
So it comes down to whether you believe what he's saying or not in terms of these studies have been compromised. He walks people through exactly why they've been compromised, who they were run by, how they cherry picked the data. Because of that, we need to do another study, which of course there will be so many people antagonistic to whatever study he runs that they will look at, this is how they set it up, and we'll either say this is a good setup for a study or it's a trash setup for a study. And then hopefully we will get some answers. What I don't understand, there is, and I am legitimately asking, what is the pushback to getting a definitive answer? Is it that people feel like we already have a definitive answer, asshole, like leave these kids alone, more injections, more vaccinations? Because I love me a vaccination as a technology. I'm so glad they exist. Yay. But hepatitis B, if I'm not mistaken, is a sexually transmitted disease that you are giving to an infant. What the fuck is happening? So if we're worried that mom has a sexually transmitted disease that she will give to the child a week before the due date, find out if mom has hepatitis, check dad so that if dad doesn't have, mom doesn't have, then it's like, okay, the odds of you contracting it are very, very low. So this is probably not one that we need to give to somebody right away. I don't understand the over fascination. How many vaccines do we give people? It's like,
he said in his study, depending
50?
on
I mean,
depending on
crazy.
the age, it varies from 30 to like 60 because some
That's
different manufacturers have
nuts.
different like schedules. Jexter Jackson, you said it. How the F did we screw up the scientific method? And that is my only beef, guys. Like, if we were the healthiest generation, I wouldn't care about this study either. If autism rates were declining, I would be like, yeah, we're good. This is a made up problem. But the fact that we are okay just in cultural perception. I'm just going to put this out there. It's not a false equivalency. I have no problem with these people or nothing like that. But we are okay with children getting hormone injections, and we don't care about the downstream conflicts of that. We don't say, wait, why should a 12-year-old get injected? Wait, what would that do to them when they're 24? We don't care about that. We don't ask any of those questions. But we're seeing a increase in a disease, an increase in a condition. Everybody's perfect, whatever. An increase in a condition, and yet we're saying, yeah, stop ignoring that increase. We already solved this. This is fine. So it's just like, in some instances, we want to say we don't need science. We should just do how we feel. And then in other instances, no, we shouldn't fact check. The science is already done. So it seems like we're picking and choosing where we want to.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think there's a lot of people that have a ton of pushback, myself included, on puberty blockers. But yeah, your point is very well taken. I do not understand why people don't want science. Science rarely reaches some final conclusion and then it just sits there. So even if there have been studies done, something is going wrong. And finding out what that something is, I think, is incredibly important. The fact that this guy is screaming from the rooftops that you have a problem with your food supply, if anybody disagrees with that. So it's like he earns a whole bunch of credibility in my mind from the perspective of, I think this is somebody that actually wants to map cause and effect. They want to figure out what's going on. They can see that we have problems with our food supply, which we clearly have problems with our food supply. So solving that, running tests, figuring out, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not like he's saying you can't get a hepatitis B vaccine if you want one. He's saying we need to run more studies on this, and I would presume other vaccines, because remember, vaccines sidestep the standard process for a efficacy trial, and that's already weird. I understand why we did it. There's all the good intentions in the world, I'll presume, for wanting to protect the vaccine industry so that they actually put money into making vaccines, because vaccines obviously can be very helpful. But that has created some second and third order consequences that seem wildly problematic, potentially. And so we should look at it. We should figure out what's going on, but we are not. So weird. I'm dangerous, according to Michael Dudley. Michael, say more.
Somebody said doctors love camel. Like, doctors used to lie to us. Like,
Used to.
I don't like yeah.
Also, you ready for a scandal? I promise you, in the next 5 to 7 years, we're all going to feel dumb for anybody that was like, maybe weed is fine. Maybe you can just like smoke burning plant matter, and it's actually like maybe a little bit good for you. Like it's an expectorant, it clears your lungs. What the fuck, people? Like, that is crazy.
I'm not gonna lie, the weed is good for you. Militia was hilarious. Like, that became like it's like for medicinal reasons, and it helps me with my cat. Like,
the thing is,
everybody
listen,
had
I knew a
eyes
guy that had, I don't know if it was Parkinson's or what, in college, and he shook like you can't believe. You could hear it in his voice. His hands trembled like the whole nine. And when he smoked, it stopped immediately. And I was always like, oh, damn, like this really does a thing to this kid. And so you knew when he was high because he was either shaking or not shaking. And so I was like, okay, it's a drug. There are obviously effects. So some of those effects might be positive, but things are a trade-off, dude. Tylenol is trying to take out your liver like there's no tomorrow. If you do too much Tylenol, you will literally die. So I'm not saying don't smoke weed if it's helping you in some way. I'm just saying don't think it's a free lunch. So for instance, The sun gives you vitamin D. It also gives you skin cancer. So you got to like walk a line. So just be thoughtful. Anyway, I think that one's people are going to laugh their ass off in 5-ish years about people who are like, no, it's good for you. That's going to be doctors coming in for Camel cigarettes. Crazy.
We have 2 super chats relating
Let's go.
back to RFK.
Nice.
So first one from James Island Panther
Toby,
for
tell
1999
me
is,
what.
if RFK proves vaccines cause autism, what is the cause and effect?
For example, this is Hep B vaccines. Not all vaccines cause autism. This was hepatitis B. Just want to.
So sorry, what was the exact question?
If RFK proves vaccines cause autism, what is the cause and effect?
Well, I won't know what the cause and effect is until we look at it. Is it the mercury that they use to keep them preserved? Is it that nothing is there and that this isn't a problem and it's something else entirely? We need to figure all of that out. I doubt that vaccines are the only thing correlated to an increase in autism. So is this a multivariate thing? Is this a rise in C-sections plus vaccines plus the food supply? It could be all of those things. Is there something in baby formula? Who knows what's going to be the end? But this is why you run the scientific method. The scientific method is a process of invalidating something, finding out, ooh, my hypothesis doesn't hold because of this thing. And so that's why, at least the way that I map RFK is he's saying, these are the things we need to look at. These are the studies that we need to run. Here's my takeaway from, looking at metadata, but I'm sure there's going to be tons of problems with some of the previous studies. And so you want to keep making them better and better as you go. And to Drew's point, it's like, we are not yet doing anything that is reducing the incident of autism. And I don't know why people aren't weird about that. That seems like something we should want to find out. And to me, it's one of those, like, no matter what the answer is, we want the answer. If impact theory is the thing causing autism, I want to know so that I can make a switch. I very much doubt that is the problem. But like, if it is, I want to know so that we can make change. So
I have a feeling that what they're really asking is like, what are the knock-on effects? So say that we found that and then we can't use vaccines. Like, what comes?
It depends on what we find. So it is very difficult to anticipate what the second and third order consequences are going to be. In general. So let's get specific. So if we say it's the preservatives, it's the mercury specifically, let's just say, in the vaccinations that cause the problem. Okay, cool. So is it lifetime exposure to that? Is it exposure to that in certain age groups? So is it that we just need to spread out the vaccines? Is it that we have to give some of them to them later? Like hepatitis B is an easy one because it's for sexually transmitted diseases. So it's like, giving them to everybody. I'm not saying that through abuse, some kids won't experience sexual contact way too early, but it's like, if we find that it's increasing if we find that it's increasing your rate of autism by some ridiculous number, then it's like, you got to play the odds on this one and just say, okay, thankfully that doesn't like become necessary in enough people to put everybody at risk for that. So it will be things like that. But again, until we know what the actual problem is, it's going to be impossible. It's going to be hard to predict the second and third order consequences when you know what it is. So when you don't know what it is, you're only guessing. But I mean, I'm happy to, like, if people are like, okay, what if it's this? Then we can think through what the most likely second and third order consequences are. Part of it's going to be triaging. What are the things that we're actually most likely to get? What are the things that if we get, they're likely to be deadly? I have a feeling that we're inoculating people against things that are high risk only in very certain populations. And we're just saying, look, just give it to everybody, which isn't a crazy idea if they've been proven to be safe, right? Like if we find there are no downsides to giving somebody 30 injections on their second day of life, okay, great. And if that reduces the likelihood of diseases spreading everywhere, I love it. That's wonderful. I'm just saying, you have a technology that sits outside of your normal approval process that doesn't go through some of these more rigorous studies. Look at it. Stop that part of it. Actually figure out what's going on.
We've got 2 more super chats from Brutus Lugo.
Let's go, Brutus.
Yeah.
So
Super chat.
First one, we've got, can you talk about why RFK says HIV doesn't cause AIDS? If true, parentheses, which it is this disqualifying for you?
certainly wouldn't be disqualifying for me if there's evidence to that fact. I'm not even sure it'd be disqualifying if I knew he was wrong or believed he was wrong. I'm not even, brace yourselves for this one, sure that I immediately disqualify anybody for lying occasionally, because I don't know anybody in the I don't trust a single elected official to not lie. And so at some point, are you saying that you just totally disengage from the process? I think Trump lies. I think Biden lied. I think RFK, who I would have voted for, I think he lies. I just assume they all lie. So I don't know. I don't think it's possible to get elected without spinning things so specifically that you might as well call it a lie. So I'm just like, how close can we get on the science where I don't need to trust anybody? I can look at the data for myself and be like, okay, this is pretty compelling. Or the way that I really do make decisions is get a whole bunch of people with all different kinds of perspectives to look at the same thing and then be like, okay, given all of these, this one seems like the most credible. Look at how I look at the economy. I over-index on Ray Dalio, not because he's the only person I research. He's not by a long shot. I'm trying to find economists that say the exact opposite of what I think. But the reason that I over-index on Ray Dalio is nobody has proven in the market where every smart person is trying to outperform him that he just understands cause and effect better than everybody else. He puts his money where his mouth is, and he votes, and he wins over and over and over and over and over 37 years, I think. So it's just like, at some point you go, okay, well, that has obviously high predictive validity because he is banking hundreds of billions of dollars on it and winning over and over and over. So when you get stuff like that, this is exactly how I stopped being like, oh, normal doctors have it all figured out. And I started looking at functional medicine because it was like, in my own experience, people that focused on what I ate, it was like, oh, wow, this really seems to matter a lot. And so now, even though there's all studies about drugs and all that, I'm just like, meh, this stuff I see having these way better knock-on effects personally in my wife, in other people that I know. So I'm like, man, there's a lot of empirical data. And honestly, I don't care who's right. I can steer by how my hand feels because I'm prone to getting inflammation in my hand. So if my hand hurts, I know I've eaten something that my body goes, nope, that's a problem. So I'm like, what could you possibly tell me that would make me go, oh yeah, even though every time I eat that thing, my hand hurts really fucking bad. You must be right. It's like, I'm never going to believe it. Any theory, any hypothesis needs to predict the world that I actually see. And if people just map to that, they'd be in a much better position. And then, by the way, always being open to, it may run parallel to what I actually see, but it might not be causative.
One more from Brutus Lugo, and this one's meant to challenge you a little bit.
Stone, I wish it was masturbation because I could chill the fuck out on that easily. It is video games, which good luck getting me to give that up, and poor diet. If I clean my diet up, I'm fine. I can play video games as much as I want. But like this morning, I woke up, my hand fucking hurt. And I was like, what did I eat yesterday? Anyway, long story, I don't know what I ate, but I woke up in the middle of the night, my stomach hurt, and I was like, what the fuck? So I don't know if I got something that was slightly spoiled or something, but it was interesting that it hurt my hand because I only ate my normal stuff. Very, very interesting. Anyway, sorry, you were saying?
You're good. I saw that one too, and I was, how do I bring this up? But not.
How do I casually say this?
Don't be casual. By the way, chat, we gotta get Mason more bold. So he's a very put together young man, but we need more of that like fight for the community energy. So if somebody's saying I'm jerking off too much, just literally yell it into the microphone.
I'm jerking off too much.
Let's go. Drew, set the standard, baby. See? Drew's not for play. That's how it's got to be done, Mason. Let's go. We are here also, as much as I want to educate and make the world a better place, we also have to be fucking entertaining. Like we just have to have an eye for that. Boys and girls, if this isn't fun, you're never going to get an audience. So entertain us, Mason.
Next one up from Brutus. But when they conclude that vaccines don't cause autism, will you even believe it? You already ignored the previous studies done on it, so why would you now believe it?
This just isn't something that I've spent a ton of time on. It's possible that if I did a deep dive on vaccines, I would walk away and be like, oh, this really is settled science. He really is a maniac. But I spent 12 hours-ish researching RFK, and I walked away going, there's a lot here. This is somebody who is giving me a daisy chain set of logic that seems plausible for sure. And I hope nobody is taking away from what I'm saying that I understand what's going on with vaccines. You guys are all fools. I'm just saying this does feel like it needs to be looked at. That's as far as I'm going to push it. So yeah, if you get a whole bunch of people that normally disagree to agree that vaccines do or do not cause autism, I'll be like, oh, cool. And if I'm like, hey, this is really important in my life and I need to go build my own mental map of it, then I'll go build my own mental map and I'll get as close to the foundational science as my brain is able to get. And I'll build my own worldview and I'll bring it up. But there are going to be many things that we talk about here that are not the areas that I'm like going to go super deep on. Vaccines, that's not my beat. So happy to talk about it, give people my sense of how I would parse through the information, which I feel like I've done here. But if people think that I get dogmatic about my beliefs, they don't understand how I view the world. You can really just map me as somebody who understands that you can make your life better from a health perspective. You can make your life better from a financial perspective. You can make your life better from a love perspective by one simple thing, recognizing that everything has physics. And if you understand those physics, then you can predict the outcome of your behaviors. And when you can predict the outcome of your behaviors, your life is just way better. So, but that forces you to say, then I have to give up on being right. I have to give up on wanting to convince people that I'm right. So the only things that you'll hear me like really beat a drum on is if I think it will make their life better, because I can already make my life better and already am making my life better. So it's like, listen, I engage with the public for one very simple reason, meaning and purpose. Humans need it. I think it's buried in our brains. I don't think my life would be enjoyable if I did not try to be useful in some way to the public at large, also to use my talents. So that's why I engage with the public, but it really isn't. I'm not here to prove to people that I'm right, because I'm just going to go use the things that I believe that I'm right about. And I've got a marriage, 'cause leading with money always makes people weird. I've got a marriage that is thriving incredibly. I've built multiple businesses. Forget the money side of it, just building something that creates something and puts something into the world. My content's been viewed over 1 billion times. I sold a company for $1 billion. Like, these things work. But these things are being willing to admit when you're wrong, always trying to find cause and effect, focusing only on what actually allows me to accurately predict the outcome of my behaviors. Anyway.
Brutus is going like 1v100 in the chat. So I'm going to say this to you, Brutus. I appreciate your conviction. And this is my thing. He's saying the studies are already being done. Why are we bringing this back up? He came up with another.
Because people care about this. I think people feel that something is off, look, I'm projecting. This is how I look at it. And it feels like this is what a lot of people are reacting to, is something is going wrong. Mm-hmm. Now, given that something is going wrong, people are going to have opinions about what that is. It's entirely possible that vaccines are the equivalent of billionaires. And anybody, like, your first blush of the economy is, yeah, fuck these guys. And then you really try to get under the hood and figure out, okay, let me map cause and effect here. And you realize, oh, wait a second. Billionaires are like plaque in the brain when somebody has Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. It isn't the cause of Alzheimer's. It's a result of what's going on in the brain. The brain trying to repair the damage of the thing that actually causes Alzheimer's, mm-hmm. which is almost certainly sugar. So to blame the plaque as if the plaque is the thing that's causing it, to blame billionaires as if that's the thing that's causing it is almost certainly a red herring. But if that ends up being true, I'll switch my mental map. So it's possible that vaccines are that. They're correlated, but they're in no way, shape, or form causative. Cool. And anybody that isn't willing to go, oh, yeah, like this is getting pretty clear now, if that's the data that comes out. But this is a thing that sidesteps that normal process. This is a thing that Brutus, I hope you can agree, people get religious about. This doesn't feel like a normal conversation. Yeah. So given that it's not a normal conversation, it's going to draw this arena that I have tremendous, I like what we call new media or independent media. It's not journalistic. It is people having as close to unfiltered conversations as they're willing to have. I think that this is an incredible win for society. I can't understand people like Sam Harris who think this is a terrible idea. Sam, I love you. Still think you're amazing. But on this, we just disagree so violently. So people are going to talk about it. And then from that, people will get the ideas that they need, and somebody's going to have to systematically study it. So,
all right, let's talk about Candace Owens.
Yeah, this is nuts.
This is just hilarious. No context. I want you to hear from her.
And I get another message that's like, hey, keep your phone on. And anyways, this phone call is coming from Florida. I pick up the phone, and lo and behold, so here's what happened. I'm negotiating this thing. I'm negotiating Ukraine and Russia, and you wouldn't believe how many parts are part. It is President Donald J. Trump. He is calling me, and in
so
true
crazy.
President Trump fashion, he jumps right into the narrative. We're not, hey, how you doing? He just jumps right into the narrative of exactly how this went down. I am literally, it is hard to catch my breath to comprehend that 4 days ago, I'm ending a series about Brigitte Macron, and now I'm speaking to the President of the United States, and the topic of conversation, no matter which way you want to slice it, is about Macron's wife's penis. I mean, there's no other way to say it, right? Anyways, I have Macron. I like
so crazy. Humans are fascinated by other humans' sex lives. Like, there's no two ways about it. I'm fascinated by this. I can't believe it, but I want more information. But the fact that Trump called a podcaster to be like, hey, I'm going to need you to chill on this one is wild. This is wild.
How does he have time for that?
Well, okay, this is a whole nother thing. I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you did, I can't help myself. I really want to exist in a world where people are told, hey, Tom's going to be calling you. Just make sure that you have your phone on you. That's so dope. I love that so much. And then that you don't have to do any pleasantries. This is like tickling my G-spot. Oh, God, if I could just get on, not even be like, hey, how's it going? Just straight into. So this is what happened. Oh, it's terrible. I get it. This is why my social circle is so small. Because maybe I had too many vaccines. I'm super autistic when it comes to this kind of thing. Oh, God. Anyway, so yeah, how does he have time for it? Because people terraform like that, and they're like, make sure you have your phone on you. Doesn't do pleasantries, just gets right into the thing. Plus, you've got to you've just got to be built for this. I am not built for this. I could not do political life. Oh my God. The thought of having to do all these calls, and my response to him would be like, bro, are you for real? Listen, she's either a man or she's not. And I am not going to call a podcaster up to ask them to chill. That's crazy. But that's politics. That is getting close to power, people wanting to do something for you, and it is incredibly useful. Like money, power is not what people think, but boy, oh boy, is it useful. But
the interesting thing to me is we forget Macron was just getting slapped up on a jetway by her.
That's crazy.
So the fact that he's trying to pull strings to get Trump to make a personal phone call.
I think he got slapped after that, but yeah.
That's what I feel like. It doesn't seem crazy to say hey, Ukraine, yeah, we're talking about it, but yeah, between me and you,
you got to get this chick
yeah,
chill.
Can you make this
chill?
It's wild.
Wild.
Has this
keep playing this because there's more. This gets so weird.
Macron, we're speaking at the White House, and I'm walking him to his car. And, he says to me, Mr. President, can I speak to you for a second? I say, of course you can speak to me about anything. What's going on? And Macron wants to have a little sidebar. And then Macron says to him, Mr. President, do you know Candace Owens? And I say, yes, of course I know Candace Owens. What's going on? And then he continues his narrative, and he tells me that Emmanuel Macron is requesting to his face that I stop speaking about his wife. And one of the things Trump said is he tells me, she's old and this is really, really impacting her. And then he said, I saw her, Candace, I saw her up close and she looks like a woman to me. She looks like a woman to me. I had dinner with her at the top of the Eiffel Tower. And I explained to him that she has had this amazing doctor who specializes in transgenderism surgeries or feminization procedures. I'm talking to the President of the United States about this, guys. This is crazy. This is wacky. And I said to Trump, and I will be honest, that at that moment I realized that one day this is going to go into my autobiography, And so I got to say something funny. And I said to him, respectfully, Mr. President, it's not my fault that he married someone with a penis. He then tells me we're really close to getting this thing done. And he throws in the art of the deal type stuff. He starts complimenting.
He must have just ignored it. Like, there's no thing to say to that. You can't acknowledge it. You know that this video is going to be made someday, so you've got to be careful.
You're talking to a content creator. This is going to be content. Like,
my God, this is nuts. But here's the interesting thing about this. This happened back in February. Mm-hmm. And so she really did keep it under wraps. So yeah, Trump was like, hey, you got to chill for a minute. And so she said, okay, I'll hit pause because Trump insinuated, she said he didn't come out and say it, but she had been called previously. We didn't show that part because she tells the story for like 22 minutes or something. But earlier, someone from the White House had called and said, listen, Macron is actually using this to hold up the negotiations over Russia and Ukraine. And so Candace is like, well, I don't want to see Christians die, which maybe you understand better than I. That just feels weird to me. But I don't want Christian death on my hands, essentially. And so, cool, I'll sit on this, but I'm not going to sit on it forever. She says she told the president that. She made it very clear. This is a temporary thing. But she sat on it between end of February, and now, end of June. So pretty interesting, man. Pretty interesting the way that this all plays out. But that this is about potentially, allegedly, the president of France's wife being a trans man, or a trans woman, excuse me. That is, it's just a sentence I did not expect to utter.
Independent media has power. And I know social media, we could revolt. In 2020, they were organizing protests on Twitter. So I understand that social media has power and things like that. But a lot of times we think we're shouting into the void and we're in our own echo chambers, and you don't realize who's listening, where it goes. The people because honestly, I don't think Trump is scrolling through Candace's Owens. I don't think he watches her every day or anything like that. But when the clip goes viral, somebody probably hands him the phone. He looks at it and things like that. So it's interesting to see that independent media having an impact, so much so that it impacts Ukraine-Russia negotiations. Now, the war isn't over. It's not like her holding this was the reason why we have a peace deal. But at the same time, the fact that it was even brought up while Macron was in the White House.
Also, that this is the thing that creeps me out about politicians. Mm-hmm. We don't know that this is true. This is all allegedly. But if it is true that a world leader would be so grotesque as to delay by even a second negotiate a peace settlement that will save lives because he wants to use as a bargaining chip the fact that an American podcaster did a series on the fact that he is allegedly married to a trans woman. That is gross. Really, really gross. And that admittedly fits my mental map of how people in power behave.
Crazy. There has to be fundamentally something that, was politics always this way? I guess, the Marilyn Monroe scandal with JFK. So there was always this messy marriage of media and politics for longer than we see. Maybe just because with social media, we're seeing it more, and people have platforms. They could tell us these behind the scenes stories that would have ended up in a memoir 30 years from now. We never would have known. But it's just, again, it's interesting to kind of see the visibility of this.
It's just nonstop sausage making. Yeah. That's all we see. It is, I for one am glad. I want as much transparency as we can get. You're never going to get all the way to 100%. That's probably good because there are things you need to keep secret, blah, blah, blah. But that has been weaponized against us for so long. The fact that we're getting that much closer, but people aren't wrong. You're going to get a ton of incorrect information. I will hesitate to use the buzzword, but you're going to get a lot of information, that's speculation that just ends up not being credible. And we all have to parse through it. It is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Moving on in AI news. Alexander Wang, former CEO of Scale AI. He still has it in his bio, so I think he's there.
All right. Real fast, just because this is a personal fetish. Lirith wants to talk more about the Stop Killing Games movement. You may have accidentally totally misinformed. I think it means be misinformed on what it's asking for. No, I've read a bit. I've read it. I'm very eager to hear more from Ross, but I will be surprised if there is some big thing that I'm missing. Anyway, we can talk more about it at some point today for sure.
Copy in. We're working to get Ross on so that we can.
Yes, we want to bring him to you guys tomorrow. So that would be amazing. Yeah. And by the way, if you know the thing you think I'm missing, just drop it right here. And Mason, who's gone for some reason that I don't understand.
He's on that way. She's on the bathroom.
Hi. When we get him back in the community, then he'll grab it and we can go for it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay, moving on. AI.
Sorry.
Meta just announced their super intelligence team. They have poached all different researchers and AI developers from OpenAI, DeepSeek, Google. I know NBA free agency just started, but these guys are getting $100 million deals and not ball players. So
this is awesome. This is like the nerd draft.
It literally is
so cool. These guys are getting big dollars, man. Yeah. Big dollars.
Okay, I know Meta got endless.
Wait, hold on. RoscoeP.co is saying I'm Ross. Is that really the Ross, or
can we verify that? No, Ross he's like Aspired Games or something, Aspirated Games or something like that. Roscoe P, wait a second.
Nice try.
Don't try to pull a fast one on us.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, we'll see. $100 million signing bonuses, equity deals out the wazoo. Is AI? This is like a big virtue signal for Meta that's saying this is our future, right?
Because this is a virtue signal.
But I mean, you spent $2 billion on payroll. Like this is like the Yankees. Like once you do that, you have to win a championship. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Expectations are risen.
Now, I have a feeling that this is not signaling on his behalf. He's going to do the thing, and then he's going to signal. I think that there are people get so caught up in the Mark Zuckerberg looks like a lizard thing that they lose sight of what an unbelievably good entrepreneur he is. The fact that this kid has survived as long as he has is pretty amazing. Structuring the deal so that he always had that he could never be voted out or kicked out, brilliant. The fact that he then has, despite the fact that he can't be pulled out, when he sees that, okay, this isn't working right now, he will change course. He's done a very good job. I mean, he's running a public company. So the public is voting every day with their dollars, whether they think he's doing the right thing. And Facebook has remained, Meta has remained one of the most high performing companies in ever, quite frankly. So I think that this is a very shrewd move by somebody who completely understands what's going on in AI, who saw that he was falling behind, that what they were doing, even though they're doing it open source, what they were doing on the open source side wasn't getting the adoption that they were hoping it was. He was able to go and attract talent. As I teach entrepreneurs inside of Impact Theory University, is one of the most important things that you do as a CEO is attract talent. And if you can't attract talent, you're going to stall out. That's tough. Like when we first started the video game, this is some of the talent recruiting I'm most proud of. Like, dude, the only credibility I had was, okay, this guy's a content creator. Okay, this guy built a protein bar company. But what does he know about games? Nothing. So it was like nobody wanted to work with us. And I had to go out and convince like top level people from Blizzard, from Riot Games, from Disney to like come in that first year and help us get our feet under us. And we did. And the game is getting so much better. I'm very excited about that. So, but I had to attract that talent, and that is not easy. So seeing what Zuckerberg has done here is pretty extraordinary. Even though he's throwing money at it, even with money, it's not as easy as you would think it is.
At the end of the year, this is Ricky Martinez's question. At the end of the year, who do you think is going to be AI top dog? Let's say a year from now, we got the super intelligence team now from Meta. We have OpenAI, we have Anthropic, we have Gemini, we have DeepSeek in the wings, who's kind of embargoed with the chips thing, but they just got that new deal, so that should free them up. Who do you think kind of comes out? It
won't be one dominant player, because by the end of the year, we will not have AGI. So you're not going to have like that fast acceleration and somebody really steps ahead. So it's going to be on different things.
Gotcha.
Right now, VO3 was so transformative from a media perspective that I give Google the edge there. What they're doing with Flow is very innovative. So I could certainly see that being a dominant player, though that will be the one generating the most revenue. That will be the one that the most people use. Still, I think that custom LoRa's is probably the real thing. Like when I look at what we actually do to create the stuff for Project Kaizen, we have to do custom stuff. You're not getting things off of a VO3 shelf just because it can't mimic your characters. And so for your like AI reels and things like that, for companies that want to do like a straight down the middle commercial type thing, you can, VO3 is probably going to be your player, or VO4 or 5, whatever it is by then. So I could see that. In terms of just everyday usage, I think that OpenAI is still going to be the dominant player. We'll see if there's been enough brain drain from what Meta just did, but I doubt it. And then from a what gets the most usage, I think what Meta's doing is going to need more than a year to really gain traction. But I could see in the next 3 years, given that they're focused on an open source thing, everybody, if they really can make that step function in the next, call it 6 to 8 months, you could get a lot of people that go, oh, I'm going to build on the back of Meta. That's what we were planning to do. So one of the things I'm trying to integrate with Kaizen is I want an external toy that matches this pet that we call codename exotics. I don't know what the final thing will be, but inside the game, there'll be like these little pets called exotics. You set them up kind of like tower defense. They help protect your base. And I want you to be able to have a relationship with them in game, out of game. And so we were going to build that on Llama. So if they can make the step function, because I think everybody knows I just have a little distrust for anything coming out of China. So I'd like to avoid DeepSeek if I can, but we'll use whatever's cutting edge. I hope that Llama can get there because then we can run it natively ourselves. And that would be a huge cost savings over using something like OpenAI. So anyway, if they can pull it off, there are tons of people like me that are like, yes, please, that would be great. And then now you build for everything in their ecosystem. And so obviously that's a huge win for them.
You didn't mention Grok, your boy. So that's
here's the thing. Like right now, Grok could be a dark horse. We'll see. The only thing I use Grok for is like, if I want to find out what's going on in culture, I'll go to Grok. It's very fast. It's tied into X. But like when I'm writing, I very rarely use X. If I want like a lot of details added to an outline, sometimes I'll use X, or Grok. But the honest answer is that I've learned now ways. I've learned ways to do it inside of ChatGPT, and I just prefer ChatGPT. But the one thing that I will use Grok for is it really does seem to optimize better than anybody else for this is true or not. So ChatGPT will give me a fact, and then I'll go, and sometimes I'll be like, there's no way, this seems too crazy. I'll go to Grok and be like, is the following statement true? And then I'll just paste in what ChatGPT told me, and it does an incredible breakdown of there's actually 3 claims within inside of this. Here's how you would have to interpret this for that to be true, blah, blah, blah. So like one of the facts in my deep dive coming up on Monday, make sure you watch it. I think this one's a banger, is that the US economy is bigger than China, Japan, and Germany combined. And I was like, that's obviously a hallucination. So I went to X because people are like, no, China's bigger than us. What are you talking about? So I went to X and I was like, is this true? And it's like, yes, this is true if what you're talking about is nominal GDP, which is the most common way that things are compared. The people that say that China is bigger are using purchasing power as a comparison. So that only is true inside of their own country. And so it's like, and that's a far less common metric. Most people look at GDP. So I was like, damn. So it's like, you're going to get that kind of breakdown from X and you're going to get it very fast. So given that our timeline is 1 year, I just don't know that Elon's going to be able to make it relevant enough. It really does just, I don't know, just lacks that je ne sais quoi. But 3 years, now it's like the Peter Thiel principle of never bet against Elon starts to come into play. But I think it's going to take him some time.
Got it. Mark Andreessen had a good take on the future of AI, and it's not just LLMs. So I want to jump into this.
Today, AI is software, right? And so when you use AI, you use ChatGPT. It's an app on your phone, right? It does. There's no manufacturing kind of component. Really, people are building giant data centers, but it's not a huge generator of like middle class jobs. But there's another turn on AI that's coming, which is the turn to embodied physical AI, which is robotics, right? And this is a transition that has already happened. It's already actually happened in drones, where drones went from being human piloted to actually being autonomously piloted. They now fly themselves. It's a transition that's happening in cars right now, right, where cars went from basically purely physical products to now basically being rolling computers that drive themselves. And if you haven't tried this yet, if you ever have the misfortune of finding yourself in San Francisco, take a Waymo. It's amazing to live in a cyberpunk future reality where you're in literally a state-of-the-art self-driving car that's literally out of the Jetsons, driving past people who are dying of fentanyl overdoses on the sidewalk. I recommend having the experience at least once. But the self-driving car really does work.
So I know this isn't why you brought this up, but what is crazy is sci-fi writers get so much right about the future that I'm always like, man, like there really is something about the vision of a cyberpunk future has always been that you'll get these incredible technological advancements, but they will come at the cost of just this insane inequality. And I could never, until I started actually learning about economics, I could never understand why that was always the future. Why wasn't it solar punk, which you are now admittedly starting to see more of, people that imagine a beautiful, not utopian, but like a beautiful future that's technologically infused. And that gives me some hope that either sci-fi writers are beginning to intuit a different shift, or they're just trying to do something new. But that cyberpunk reality is coming true. So hopefully it's short-lived, but it is fascinating that people could see that. I mean, they were writing this stuff back in the 80s, man. So the 80s was a long time ago, as much as I hate to admit that.
It's really happening. And then what's going to happen, you've all probably seen, Elon has this Optimus robot that he's building, these humanoid robots. Like the general purpose robotics thing is going to happen, and it's going to happen in the next decade, and it's going to happen at giant scale. And I think there's a plausible argument, which Elon also believes, that robotics is going to be the biggest industry in the history of the planet.
How could it not?
It's going to be gigantic. There's going to be billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of robots of all shapes, sizes, descriptions running around doing all kinds of things. Those robots need to get designed and built, right? And so my view is, we don't try to get the old manufacturing jobs back. What we should do is lean hard into the manufacturing jobs of the future,
Correct.
Which is designing and building all of these new things, right?
Correct.
By the way, which includes drones and cars, right, and robots. And
This is Elon's pushback on the big beautiful bill. So Trump keeps spinning it that he's just mad that he's losing the EV credits. He's talked endlessly that if you wiped out all of the EV credits, then Tesla would be in a better position. His beef seems to be that you're giving subsidies to old technologies, but not to new technologies. And so, hey, if you wipe out all subsidies, great. If you selectively subsidize one thing and not another, that becomes a problem. And so when you think about we need to control our own manufacturing, let me tell you, I'd much rather be controlling the manufacturing of the future than controlling the manufacturing of the past. Doesn't mean that there aren't certain critical industries that we do need to have here, but dude, robots are going to be everywhere. Farming, all of the labor that we think we need from immigrants, and in a short term, I'm sure that there is some utility from that. But I just saw a broccoli picker, and it was crazy. And it's just, again, it can work 24/7, like it just does its thing. So I don't think people fully understand how many forms robots are going to take, how many of them they are going to be, how much you're going to rely on them, how suddenly your average middle-class person in the not too distant future will be able to afford their own, will be able to afford their own robot in home.
Who did the broccoli up, G?
It won't be too many years, call it 10, before even lower income houses will have access, even if like only in a shared thing where it's like, I have a robot cleaner that comes by once or twice a week to clean my apartment. You're going to see all of that. And we want to be a part of that future for sure, of actually getting the manufacturing jobs from making these things.
Shouldn't be building manufacturing lines that have people sitting on a rubber mat for 10 hours screwing screws in by hand, but we should be building, what Elon calls them alien dreadnought factories, right? Which is like these super sophisticated factories with like tons of robotics. But you can imagine thousands and thousands of different categories of industrial production that have to happen all across the US in order to make this happen. And would cause just like enormous economic growth throughout the country. We get a huge payoff from all the tech investment that the coasts are making, but we generate many tens or hundreds of millions of jobs in the countryside. And then the U.S. would lead. It would be, be the third industrial or fourth industrial revolution. We would lead in the development of all these new things. And then you get to the national security side of this, which is if you don't do this, you're living in a world of Chinese robots everywhere.
Pause it for a second. Tanner in chat has a really interesting point. I think this is true. Wait until they put the fields on big moving platforms and they start bringing the crops to the machines. Shit is wild. That is true. Like there are going to be things that we can't even imagine right now. Like, oh God, I forget who was talking about this. It might have been Senator Massey. He's an electrical engineer by trade, and he built himself a chicken coop that moves. So the chicken coop moves, so the chickens get to like eat all the different grass, but they're also protected from, you know, coyotes and stuff. So they're going to be all kinds of like massive things. Vertical farming is going to become a thing where we control all of the environment. Yeah, this is going to get very, very interesting.
And that has, you know, very profound consequences for, let's just say, profound consequences.
And it's an important policy point. And I want to dig into this a little bit more. I was just in an interview up there, like, aren't we going to destroy tens of millions of jobs? Isn't AI scary? A lot of people are very scared right now with the disruption. I'm very excited about the higher productivity because I see it being disinflationary. I see it creating more jobs. How do we, if assuming we're aligned, how do we explain this to people? How do we explain this is actually a really good thing for the country? Because a lot of Luddites are going to attack this.
Maru
They are going to try to
Shia, no,
stop
I
it.
have not.
Yeah, so the Luddites are wrong.
Oh, wait, pause. Nor busy. We need to know more. Nor busy is saying, did he not guilty?
He was found guilty of 2 of the lesser charges and acquitted of the 3 more
Which 2?
serious.
Breaking news, everybody. Let's go.
That was from the chat.
Which 2? Oh, so we should probably verify. But which 2? Drew, you looking this up?
I'm looking it up live.
Also, Lyrith got back to you.
Awesome. Tell me what that is as soon as we're done with the Diddy thing.
I got to pull it up. Sean Diddy Combs was acquitted of racketeering and sex trafficking charges on Wednesday and was found guilty of 2 lesser charges of transportation of former girlfriends for prostitution. The verdict is seen as a victory for Combs, who has cleared the most serious charges against him. His defense team opted not to call witnesses before arresting. Combs had ferociously denied the allegations against him. The live briefing made All right, so.
Okay, so is he going to jail? When are we going to find that out?
We'll see that, but 2
because
transportation for prostitution is a slap on the wrist in comparison.
Is it really? I thought it was still like 10 or 15 years.
He was facing RICO charges and racketeering.
Yeah,
so
for real.
In comparison,
but, like if you go to jail for 10 years, that's a long ass time. My wife is not going to be happy about this.
Okay. I'm still trying to like figure this out. We don't have all the information. Let me get some Googling going.
All right.
And I'll have it back.
Right.
GB, take now.
But have they read the verdict? Or are we still in the this is just a partial verdict thing?
A partial verdict.
Boo. Come on. Need the verdict. Need the full thing. Let's go. Jexter, are you saying that you think he's guilty? My wife, who's been paying attention to like every beat of this trial, is pretty convinced that he's guilty. I have not paid attention to this at all. Yeah, let's go. Hit that promo. If you haven't been watching it, everybody, make sure you check out Women of Impact. They've done some incredible coverage on this with she's not an attorney. What are we calling Laura Mason? Do you remember?
She's co-host.
Yeah, but what is like in real life her thing?
Oh, I'm gonna get this wrong. I think she was a behavioral analyst at the FBI.
So behavioral analyst that worked with not only the FBI but in like Scotland Yard in the UK.
That I don't know about.
So yeah, she knows her stuff. Make sure you guys check it out. It's crazy. Nicholas, he watches Women of Impact. That's what I like to hear. Nicholas Tan, you are my kind of person. Was she a prisoner? How? I don't know who we're talking about, Mad Villain.
Yeah, both a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison for the transportation to engage in prostitution.
Oof.
That's a maximum, though. There's no way he gets 10 years.
Seriously, Diddy over robots? Rick, come on. It's breaking news.
Is Diddy a good person? No. Did Diddy do a lot of lucid things? No. Is Diddy a sex trafficker, racketeer, like mustache twirling, like he has a bunch of 14-year-olds in his basement? I don't think so. So it was just interesting how he got all these cases. Like I feel like people wanted Diddy to be Epstein so bad. Like
that's interesting.
They really wanted to, all the anger and stuff that they had for Epstein, they wanted to put on Diddy and kind of like he should take not take the fall, but like they finally caught somebody, so they wanted that like head on the stake. And I just think that
Oh man, if he doesn't go to prison, which seems impossible, but if he doesn't go to prison, man, trial by media, that is correct, Riley.
Oh yeah. He's cooked regardless. Like he's going into.
I'll be so interested to see what he does.
He's going into a black hole. There's no way.
No way. That guy does not have the constitutional ability to go into a black hole. If he doesn't go to jail and he gets out, bro, what does he take, a beat, maybe a year or something like that? And then he is going to go ham. Yeah, that is my prediction. The question is like, what will happen? Because if people are not going to do things with him on a corporate perspective until he can build back. And so does he get desperate? Like, does he go Liver King and like he has a psychological break because he loses the house and like the money dries up? That'll be interesting to see. So yeah, I would say buckle up. Going to get weird.
Everybody says he will double down. He's 60 and he just went through, like, have y'all seen him? He has gray hair. We never used to see Diddy with gray hair.
Yeah, well,
Diddy,
that's what happens when you're in jail.
But he's aging. I feel like this like fundamentally changed him. People in the industry are not going to take, like, he's like Kanye, like he's toxic. So it's like he's going to be yelling at people. Will people pay attention to him? Will people listen to him?
That's a whole nother question.
I don't think so.
That is a whole nother question. His son is now in trouble. That I don't know.
Yeah, I'm staying away from that.
I don't know. All right. Back to our regularly scheduled program. You were saying that Lyrith.
Yep. So Lyrith got back to you.
Let's go.
He said all it asks for is that, and this is going back to the Stop Killing Games movement, which Tom covered in a previous live.
Yep.
And this is coming back to that. So all it asks for is that at the end of life, a server's end game abandoned, that it not be impossible for hobbyist gamers to be able to buy it on their own. At most, that may mean releasing the server client. And releasing the server client is an upload, not continuing support. As long as it is not impossible for hobbyist gamers to set up a way to play the game, either solo or a hobbyist server. And then he said, time is of the essence. This is a huge deal for the EU. And we have a link to a video that explains more of his take. If you want to go into that, I send it to Drew.
If we can get him on tomorrow, I would say better that for our deep coverage. Totally. But my quick response is, yes, I've read their entire website, so I'm aware of what they're asking for. But as a game developer, I'm just like, hold on. There are deals that you make with third-party vendors that make your game possible that you would not be able to force to comply with this. So I keep coming back to, like, if you limit the scope of this so that certain games where you're not going to find yourself in a situation like that, we have to renegotiate everything that you do, that they have to change their business model, then I could see, because I get what they're trying to do, totally understand. You want to move people away from like a renting or a licensing model to like, no. If I play this game and I invest emotionally and I'm totally into this thing, that it can't be taken away from me. And I understand that. I can still play my games from the original Nintendo that I bought when I was 12. So I totally understand. I'm just saying that there's technical challenges here that do not strike me as simple as he's making it out to be. Now, if he has engaged with server-side developers that are like, no, like there is a way to do this, people just aren't doing it. Let me show you, this is so easy. And they can help me develop in a way where I don't need these third parties. Dude, I love it. There's no emotional friction that I have. If this is as simple as, we want to stop people from putting up artificial blocks, because let me give you an example. A game like Genshin Impact. As far as I can tell, that game does not require, from a I want to play this perspective, it does not require an internet connection. Now, for all of the purchasing and stuff, it does, but for the just I want to play it, I think it pings the server maybe to validate that you have a real copy. And then after that, it forces you to have an internet connection, but you don't actually need one. Now, I could be wrong about Genshin Impact specifically, but there are certainly games that do that. And the number of times I've been pissed that I can't play a game on an airplane, like that, I understand. But that's not the sum total of this. But if people can get me to a state where I don't need to rely on third parties, that I can optimize my game, control my own destiny, that this really is just deployable to a server, simple as, it'd be wonderful. But as a developer, that has not been my experience. Now, I'm not a technical developer, so I'm not in there writing code. So it's entirely possible that I've just gotten bad information from the developers that we work with. Totally open. And if that's true, I love it. That does not seem to be the case from where I'm sitting. So we'll see. I would love to talk to him. This guy's got heart. Gamers love it. The gaming community wants this to happen. And so as an indie developer, I'm like, hey, if this gives me a way to get a leg up and I can give the community what they want and do an end run around bigger companies that are like, ha ha ha, we're never going to let people do this. That's a huge like bit of blue space for me. So I want this to be true so that I can do a thing that other companies aren't willing to do. But just right now, for the type of game that I'm building, I don't see how this works.
Mauricio Dark, I'm with you. He said Zelda ROM hacks are booming right now. I don't even like support Nintendo's traditional ecosystem. I love ROM hacks. I've played so many Pokemon ROM hacks. It's like ridiculous. So I feel like games.
This is like jailbreaking Zelda. What does it let you do?
They customize it. They put like layers on it. So the ones that I play specifically are like OG Pokemon, like Red and Blue, but all the Pokemon are in one game as opposed to having two different games that you design.
So
and, like,
as
different story structures, all that. Like
as an indie developer, we're working on getting to the point where, like, I think UGC is what
Yes.
Kaizen is going to become.
Yes.
And I am trying to build Ready Player One. It will take a very long time given our budgets are not quite Rockstar's budgets. But I love that idea. And I love the idea that the stories and the maps and all of that are created by users. And what we talk about internally is we're building the container and then the community will build stuff. So I love the idea of modding and all that. But there is a flip side to the modding equation where you can break the like contract that you have with the community. So for instance, if it's an impact theory game, then parents should be able to trust that like, oh, I don't have to like go play this game all the way through myself. I trust that Tom understands that this is a game aimed at kids, that there are certain things you shouldn't do, that there should be an empowering message, blah, blah, blah. Now, if somebody can mod my game, then it becomes, well, what kind of checks and balances are there to make sure that this still has the ethos that we stand for as a company? And so this is why companies like Disney who are like, I got to protect my brand. I'm just never going to let people do something like that because their thing could end up being more popular than mine and more people know us for the raunchy version of Pokemon or whatever. Not that I think Disney owns Pokemon, but you get the idea. And so that's where that becomes tricky. So also, you want to make sure that you're able to put a revenue model where you didn't just spend, like for me, it'd be spending millions of dollars so other people can monetize. That doesn't make any sense. So
all these things are free. You don't pay for them.
Right. But if people aren't paying for your game and instead they're going out and they get a modded version, I'm just saying there's a sensible way to do it. And then there's a way to do it where this like runs away from you. And so gamers will know what happened with Dota becoming Dota 2 and Valve and Blizzard, I think, getting in a big lawsuit because Blizzard made Dota. Dota became Riot Games, essentially. Also became Dota 2, which Valve came in and grabbed because it was a mod made by the players that got more popular than the original game. Blizzard then has a really dumb reaction. They try to clamp down on everything. Like, if you build anything in any one of our games, we own it for always and forever. And it's like, you don't want to do that. But at the same time, you probably do want something sensible, like what Minecraft does.
Roblox.
Roblox is a totally different thing because you can only create inside their environment. But they have a brilliant creator-friendly thing where it's like, hey, if you make something and it pops off on our platform and you want to turn it into a movie, that's a you thing. That's brilliant. So this is why we backed out of negotiations with Webtoon. They were so onerous on our comic books. I was like, even if we make a hit movie out of one of these things, you guys capture so much of the upside. I'm like, bro, you better start paying for a lot more of the production here. So yeah, we ended up backing out. But I think we'll find something that's very creator friendly. I think we have to find a way for creators to make money inside of our ecosystem. Otherwise, this just won't scale.
Yeah. Altuition hit it on the head. He said a lot of ROM hacks aren't really modding the original game so much as using its assets and structure to make their own game and experience. A lot of creators add their own art, music, and gameplay system. So I think that's
like the worst part. That's the thing I'm saying. Game developers are never going to want that.
Yeah.
I spent all this money making my Pokemon, and now you've made a totally different game off the back of it. They're going to have a stroke.
But I think it's more so it's the marriage between traditional video games, Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, with the Roblox, Fortnite ecosystem of like, I'm using your assets, your coloring scheme to make these experiences. So it's still a Pokemon game. There's still a beginning, middle, and end. You still got to catch them all. So it's still the ecosystem that you brought. But instead of, for my specific case, me having to buy 2 different games and play 2 different game experiences and then trade
Did you
them
have to
between
buy
two?
the original game?
No.
Yeah, see, they're
But I'm 100% off.
and
I'm
admittedly
emulator
that's
off.
super shitty. Like if
I'm piracy.
if you crack a game, you're all for piracy.
No, I'm saying for this specific example, I'm 100% like in the piracy lane.
That this is piracy.
Yeah. What I'm talking about is like piracy.
Yeah. So I'm saying that I would expect people to shut down and understand that you are stealing. Somebody took a huge financial risk to make that, and you're just like, thank you, and now you're doing your own thing.
Yeah, they already got paid though.
That's not.
Statute of limitations.
What do you mean they already got paid?
Yeah, the Pokemon came out in 2019 something.
So
2000?
you're on the team
OG.
of no IP. Sorry, you created it, great, but we're gonna run with it.
I'm 25 years later, like just like the
Is
Senate
that the
deal.
number? 25 years?
Yeah, like
That's
it's
crazy.
It's 8-bit. Like it's 8-bit.
That is.
I can understand if I was cracking Mario Kart 45, then it's like, okay, yeah, that just came out. I'm gonna mess up your $80 game. My bad, bro. But
That is fascinating.
we're just like, we are for piracy. Yeah.
No,
I'm a
hard
socialist when it comes
pass.
to video games.
Hard. I see that. Hard pass. Pokemon lawsuit coming in.
I do wanna bring up this-
Yeah, Marcos, I made it hot. You're right. I made it hot. Nintendo don't play them games. I'm just playing Nintendo. I don't pirate anything.
Psych.
Just kidding. Allegedly.
Drew's address.
Allegedly. This is for entertainment purposes. I'm only doing this because views go up when I talk about piracy. I'm going to play that in court.
It's all for the
Okay, wait. Lirith had a follow-up question about the way that we have our service structure. Scroll back. Right there. Tom, your game that has a server client that runs, yes. 20 years from now, you move on past your game, but OG guys just want to play it on their own. Hobbyist programmers have the game client. Yeah, no, I totally get the idea. I get what this is, but you create perverse incentives. So take a game like, whatchamacallit, Concord. They spend $400 million. They launch it. A week later, it's dead. I believe it's a free-to-play game, so nobody spent money unless they bought skins, but them being forced to say, okay, now people can get any of our IP through us having to give them the client or anything like that. Plus, games break even when you don't change anything. It is the weirdest thing. You can have stable code will break over time. And so there are all kinds of things where it's like, now are people going to say you got to unlock the code? So you'll create like all these perverse incentives. If there is a way where you can turn the game into something like an OG Nintendo game where it's like, that's the code, you don't need to access it, but you have it and you can play it, that I'm all for. That makes all the sense in the world. But if I have to give people access to the code, that's where I'm like, wait, what? So it gets nuanced in terms of what would I actually have to hand them? And again, if somebody shows me, hey, there's a way to hand your server client code off where nobody has access to it, but they're able to set it up and run it in the way that you would like copy an uneditable PDF file. Oh, okay. Like I don't have beef with that. So it just comes down to the technological specifics.
Tanner Tipping. Tanner, you've been on a roll on this topic. Nintendo could put out the official ROM for the original game and people would totally buy it again and then mod it. Make the method and make it easy and people would buy it. So is there a white space for like, okay, I'm going to re-release this NES game. I'm going to create the community. I know you guys are already hacking it, modding it, pirating it. Let me now own that and kind of turn it into a Roblox. So let me make a Mario Roblox. And you can come in and make all Mario World and Mario games as long as you buy the original.
If they were smart, they would look at Roblox and go, oh my God, now imagine Roblox with all of our assets, and they would do it. But companies get to a point where they're like, but that's not our business model. And I get it, but this is why companies come and go. So I'll remind Nintendo, you used to be a playing card company and you are now a video game company. So you've done this transition once before. Doing something like that, I think would be incredibly smart. And there's huge white space. But I will also remind everybody, you're probably 3 to 5 years max away from being able to AI all your assets. As a reminder, Impact Theory now AIs all of their assets. We went from it taking 3 months and 10 people, not full-time, but 10 different people would touch an asset roughly, to get an asset from, hey, we should develop a character like, all the way through to they are actively in the game, voiced, animated, all of that. We can now do that in a day with one person. It's 80% of the quality. It's not all the way there, but it's just so much easier. And that's just going to get better and better. So people will be able to make the games that they want very, very quickly. I don't know how many years we are away from AI actually coding inside of Unreal Engine, but I don't think we're going to be that far. 5 years, 7 years just seems crazy that it would take that long. So you're going to be able to vibe code your own video games within the decade for sure, barring us hitting some sort of limit. So like all of this sort of goes away, but I think the white spaces for companies that understand the future is UGC, plain and simple, period, end of story. And so the way that I talk to myself about it is I'm going to be one of the creators inside of the game. I'm not going to be the creator inside of the game. And so I want to build Ready Player One. I want to create a set of physics essentially inside the game that allow players to do the things that they want to do. I want there to be official narratives. I want parents to feel safe that they can bring their kids into this game. So how we wall that garden off, I don't know yet. But that's really the goal. So finding a logical way to structure it so that players have limited access to modding it so that they can't like break my game or essentially steal the resources that I built, but that they can build inside of the game in a way that is mutually beneficial to them, to us. That's what we're looking to build. I think that's just the future of gaming. This is why Roblox is so big. This is why Fortnite is so big. Some of the tools that Epic is giving people is amazing, amazing. These guys are doing phenomenal things. And shout out to Typical Gamer, who is somebody I've gotten to know a very little bit, but seems like a lovely guy, really understands how to build inside of the Fortnite creative ecosystem and is really trying to build things that players are interested in. And he generates, I mean, I don't want to put him on blast, but he generates a lot of money doing it. So it's pretty incredible. We want to create similar kinds of opportunities. We're not trying to build what Fortnite has built. It's just they have too many resources. We're trying to do something different, but with that same ethos of, I get it, the players are going to want to build here.
Yeah. So when you say you want people to build inside of Kaizen, like what does that mean? Because somebody in the chat asks, like, are you saying you're going to open a publishing house and you're going to like invest?
Not opening a publishing house. There's no money in that, but you want to, so we do everything through portals. So you can, hey, we're what I call a shooter survival RPG. So we've got the movement of a shooter. So it's fast paced, double jumps, like run, slide, jump, all of it. Unlike typical survival where you feel like you're in mud a little bit if you're used to fast-paced games. So very fast-paced, but it is a survival world. So you're collecting resources, you're crafting, you're building, but we have an extraction royale loop. So you can go compete against other people for limited resources, and you can just treat it more or less like Fortnite and just play to beat everybody. Or you can be like, no, I'm here specifically to get this particular resource, which can be something everybody's competing for and you have to win to get it. Or it can be something, no, I just go off to this random place. I need that thing and I have to kill because it's PvEVP. So you're fighting both AI and other real players. So anyway, you're going there to get your resource. And I think it is the ultimate loop. I think this is going to be very popular. And it was one of those, it was an idea in my head. And now that I play it, I'm like, this is as awesome as I thought it was going to be. And so you can be in your survival loop, or you can be in your extraction PvP loop, or you can do both. And so now you've got this idea of portals. So you go through a portal and you're now in a totally different world. You could be in a totally different game mode. And we want players to be able to say, here's my portal. And so they build what's on the other side of the portal using our building tools that suck right now, but hopefully won't suck a year from now. And you'll be able to build a level. You'll be able to drop in the different NPCs and stuff. You'll be able to get rewards that you can give to players. So it's like, hey, you can collect these resources inside of the level I built. And then if players and I want the players to be able to upvote and say, this, we call them dungeons for now, but mini worlds. This dungeon is dope. And so this dungeon has a killer rating. And so people will be able to, on the back end, say, only spawn in dungeons into my survival world that have a whatever score with however many votes. And so now you're playing in your survival world and you'll have an optional dungeon that you can go through that's built by a player. You can see what the rating is. So like, oh, cool. I want to go inside this world. This is super cool. And then of course, they'll be able to select it from a dropdown if they just want to do dungeon raids or whatever. But now, if that player who built that dungeon can make money, amazing. Yeah. And so they'll be able to tell stories inside of their dungeons. They'll be able to build their dungeon however they want. I want to be very clear. I'm talking future stuff. This is not, because in a month, our player community is going to get a week-long access to the game. Like The game, the core survival extraction loop exists. It's smaller than I want it to be right now, but it's fucking there, man. I played for 14 hours, Drew. So there's a...
That's why you haven't been doing the deep dives? That's what's happening?
How dare you, Drew? How dare you? I have had we haven't missed a Monday yet. So yeah, that's the loop we want players to be able to build inside of, and we want them to be able to make money doing it. In the beginning, there's not going to be a lot of money because we got to build the player base up, but I think over time, so I think we're a year away from it really being a game that I can be proud of. I think we're 2 years away from going on Steam and saying, pay me money. But the game is playable right now today. So that's very exciting. But there's like a lot of some of the POIs or wire mesh, and it's just really basic visually. But I'm super proud of what we built.
So somebody who's like a bit of a baby gamer, would you say that it seemed like it's a rolling evolution, that things are just kind of getting better and better with time? You're going to add more features as time goes on. Is there any kind of grounding traditional story mode or anything like that, or is it
There's not a campaign, and I'm violently opposed to campaigns.
Really?
That they'll be ambient. They'll be there. You're in a story world. There are characters. You will interact with them. There is a narrative. But I am not building the on rails kind of game. I want a game. It is open world. I want a game that's more GTA than it is. God, I was just playing a game that was so on rails, Lost Skies or something like that, where it's like literally I can't go to some of the places I want to go. You're forcing me through hours and hours of tutorials. That's not what I'm here for. I want a game where I drop you in. If you want, you can go do the things that will slowly walk you through all the stuff, or you can just go do your thing and really be in an open world. And if you can reach the portal without dying, go for it. And yeah, I find that far more interesting. Yeah. And it just hasn't been done.
You know what I miss? You remember like Destiny, how they used to do raids where you used to have to like have to do like,
still
these
do them.
challenge, and you have to like gather with it like a group and like meet with people and stuff like that.
Destiny will cry to hear that you think that they don't do them anymore.
It's just
nobody's showing up for them.
Yeah, I don't play with my clan anymore, and that was the thing. And then I remember I downloaded the app to like find a thing, and then I played once some like
looking for group.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
I used to do the same thing.
It's crazy. Cool. All right. You guys messed up my whole plan because Diddy charges dropped and we were halfway through AI. I want to close this loop though, because I think that the point that Andreessen was making at the end of this video is that AI right now being a software-based system is only benefiting a certain sect of people, whereas like software communities are expanding, like the coastal cities, people who know how to leverage software are going to get the biggest like bump, and that the big chasm, the next frontier of AI, although we're always talking about AGI and ASI, it's the world of atoms and rebuilding the industrial world, the physical world with the knowledge and the learnings that we get.
I think there's an even more important thing. He's very onto it. He's absolutely correct. AI has to manifest in the physical world where you can interact with robots and stuff like that. That's already happening. That's going to keep happening for sure. The more important thing is if AI cannot figure out the laws of physics, we are in trouble. Your media is never going to be as good as it could be, because if it understands the laws of physics now, it's more like working inside of a game engine where you can tell the thing like, hey, you prompt it, this is what I want, it gives it to you, but then it gives it to you in a way that you can edit the variables, that you can move the camera, that fluid moves in a way that's physically real, so that you could say, no, I want the water rushing faster, and it knows what that means from a fluid dynamics perspective. So if you can get to that point, oh my God, Drew, it will be unreal. First of all, if it understands the laws of physics, presumably it could do breakthroughs in physics. That would be insane. What that will mean for medical science will be just unbelievable. Now, I'm optimistic about the body, that you can go a really long way even without it understanding the laws of physics, because the body is basically just a bunch of patterns. And so you could really learn that. But if you want crazy novel breakthroughs, I think you're going to have to understand physics better. So that's going to be the big one. Like when you hear me say energy costs are going to drop to zero, I'm assuming it begins to understand physics. And so it can help us with material science and things like that, and really offer some breakthroughs. So we'll see if it gets that far. But that's the big one. The only person I hear talking about it is Jan LeCun. And he's like, kids, it's never going to understand the laws of physics. LLMs are limited. And if he's right about that, then you will hit an asymptote and progress will stall out in a traditional S curve. And so right now we're on the like climb up, but you will eventually hit that top of the curve. And so if we're right about that, or if Yan is right about that, then you've got a wall coming at some point. Whether that wall is a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, don't know. But it'd be interesting to see.
Yes, it's crazy, kind of the future of industries and how things are like slowly progressing.
All right,
we're noticing this right now with Robinhood, who just announced tokenized stocks. So what this means is that people around the world can have access to the U.S. stock market through tokens. And their CEO gave a breakdown of exactly how it's all going to work.
Buy some Apple stock. What happens is that order is transmitted to our back end, and then it's transmitted to a U.S. broker. Now, this is a registered TradFi broker-dealer that will buy a traditional share from what I'll call a TradFi market. Now, this could be a market maker or an exchange like the NYSE or the NASDAQ. Then, that share is transmitted back to the U.S. broker. It's custodied in traditional form, and it gets sent to what we call our tokenization engine. Now, this is where the magic really happens. So for every share that's being purchased from the TradFi market, one token is being minted, and this represents the exposure to this share. And then that token gets transmitted back to you. So what this means is, right now, every time you place a trade, an actual traditional share is being purchased from the market, held in custody, and a fresh token is minted. Then similarly, when you want to sell these shares, the process goes in reverse. Robinhood instructs the introducing broker to sell the share, the underlying share in the open market. Then we burn the token, give you the proceeds. And this is all available 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. So I'll call this phase one. Okay. And let's talk about what happens in phase two, which hopefully will be rolling out to customers in the next few months. So in phase two, we see the introduction of...
Really fast, pause it for a second. So where they're at now is interesting, and I really do still believe that Web3 is going to be a big thing. The blockchain unlocks certain things, and he'll talk more about it in the end of the video. But all they're saying right now, phase one, is basically, I'm just going to create a cryptographically provable dollar bill that can be exchanged for gold, but gold remains the real thing, meaning the stock is still stuck in the TradFi system. And I haven't done a deep dive on this, but I probably should. It is my understanding you don't actually own the stock anymore. The stock is actually being held by a company. And if that company were to go bankrupt, you would just be like any other creditor standing in line. That's insane. It used to be that you actually had the stock. And I know that there was, I think it was one of them that was in France. I forget which one of the Rothschild kids was in France. But he literally had to bury his stock certificates in the yard because of the revolution. And like, that's where we need to get back to. Where we need to be is that if you're doing something cryptographically, that the cryptographic thing is the certificate itself. Like, that is it. Right now, it's just a pointer that says this person has the right to this thing, which is stuck inside the TradFi system. He talks about getting outside of the TradFi system, but he's only partly correct. It just means that you can hold that pointer in a wallet outside. It's still not the thing, but I mean, this is where it starts. You've got to build these technologies, get people used to it, and then over time you say, well, hold on a second. Why are we still letting these things be trapped inside the TradFi system? But I think there's just really, really deep problems with all of these like quiet systems made by bankers and all that to do things that slowly undermine private property. No bueno. So this is a step in the right direction, but I wouldn't expect anybody to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Not if you understand what's really happening.
the excitement was that it opens up the U.S. stock market and the crypto exchange to the global world in a easier way, quote
Sort
unquote.
of. Sort
Yeah.
of. All it does is it says, I have a pointer and I can use the pointer to technologically trigger the purchase order. But still that, like if the systems are closed, that's why this is only 5 days a week. If the systems are closed, the only thing somebody can do is buy the pointer. Now you can admittedly sell the pointer, but you haven't actually transferred ownership of the thing stuck in the TradFi system. So now what's interesting is you would presumably lock in the price, yes, because you've already made the transaction. But that after hours trading, this is where I don't know the ins and outs of the stock market well enough to know if the following statement is true. But I think the price could change in before hours trading. And so now you've locked it in at a certain price because you're now out of it because you rely on this pointer system. And now that other person either could get a win or a loss before they even take hold of the actual asset. So that's interesting.
So Web3 is the proliferation, I'm assuming, of like blockchain. That's when
It's just the next movement of the web is built on blockchain technology.
Yeah. So I was always told that, you know, when you get into crypto, especially, you're supposed to get radically away from TradFi and blockchain. So Web3 was kind of the way to do it. So I was always instructed by like my crypto OGs, never trade on Robinhood or like Coinbase or things like that because you don't necessarily own it. You're
not my keys,
playing,
not my crypto.
Yeah, you're playing the exchange. So unless you actually have like a wallet or something like that.
Ever lost your keys?
I haven't.
Like keys to your car.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. This is why people are always going to use things that look like the TradFi system. Now, people like, I don't want to self-custody my dollars, right? I don't want dollars sitting in my house, even if they're in a safe. I don't want to have to spread my US dollars around the world in a bunch of different safes and like tell you part of the code and somebody else part of the code. And even I don't know the whole code and I've got to get you guys on the phone. I've got to be like, that's crazy. No one wants to live like that. So the only way this is ever going to take place is when we recognize the current banking system is partly due to just humans don't want to have to think about this stuff to that level. So upgrading the system so that it's 24/7, that's dope. Love that. Upgrading the system so that, like in the case of Bitcoin, you can't inflate my money. Love that. But this idea that people are going to self-custody everything, get out of here. That is dumb. People are not going to. You've got to remove the friction in the system, creating like regulatory frameworks such that I can have my easy to move stable coin so that I can make transactions lightning fast anywhere in the world, no transaction fees. And I know that you have to hold a 1-for-1 off the book reserve. Yes, word, love that. So all of those things are right in terms of there are these deep stupidities baked into the TradFi system, but some of the stuff they're trying to get around is just like nerds being like, what's the problem? It's like, bro, multi-sig and all that stuff is crazy town. I set all that up because we were playing with so much money, but it's like, it was miserable. hate. So yeah, that's never going to be the thing.
Yeah. Do you have that like hard and fast rule as well of like stay away from exchanges and stuff like that, buy your crypto only? So you're just more so as long as you're invested.
Yeah, I keep the vast majority of my stuff in a cold wallet that I control, but I do all of my trading on exchanges. I leave, call it 1 or 2% on exchanges just to, so if I've got a buy or sell order that stuff is live and I don't have to think about it. I certainly pay attention. Like when it was a hostile crypto environment, I was way more like 99.9% in cold storage. But now that the environment's way more friendly, I'm a lot less worried about it. You want to make sure you're dealing with reputable companies. You want to remind yourself, even reputable companies can do something stupid or get hacked or go out of business or whatever. But if you've got your money in a bank, I'm not sure why you're suddenly so paranoid about this. I think it is far more likely that people do something stupid, click on the wrong link, fall prey to social engineering, blah, blah, blah. Like those are the things you need to worry about. Your own, like forgetting where your keys are, that kind of thing. But certainly like a Coinbase, I think is proven. They've gone through a lot of ups and downs. They've been attacked by the government. They've come out the other side resilient. I don't trust anybody 100%, but those guys have earned a lot of respect in my book.
Yeah. All right, let's go over to the UK, where now controversial punk rock band Bob Dylan has lost their visa, lost everything because they led this chant at the Glastonbury Festival.
Free, 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 free. Alright, but have you heard this one though? Death, death to the IDF, death, death to the IDF, death, death to the IDF, death, death to the IDF.
Ah, Drew.
Death, death to the IDF.
Kids today.
And now his visa's revoked.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, there's multiple levels of analysis that you can do on this one. Is that an incitement to violence? Almost certainly, yes. You can say that the IDF is an amorphous blob. The reality is that people are going to take that to be like the actual military is made up of people. And so if you actually want death to happen to the IDF, then you have to kill actual people. So if this went to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court was like, yeah, this is obviously incitement to violence, I'd be like, yep, totally understand. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. At the same time, you and I can't remember if we talked about this on camera or only off camera, but on this is what you pay artists to do. You want artists to push the boundaries. You want Sinead O'Connor to rip the picture of the Pope up, but there are going to be consequences. And this is only interesting because there are consequences. And so the very thing that you want these guys to do is to be on the bleeding edge of all this stuff. But the reality is we live in a very divided time. There is literal political violence. People are actually being killed. And so this kind of stuff is crazy to me. So from a values perspective, no, this kid shouldn't be coming to America. Fuck that. Like, this is not from an America standpoint what we stand for. Do I think that he should have been kicked off Instagram? No, I don't. If you want to block that post, love it. That post is trash. But then saying this person can never speak again, that is dumb to me. If you have a sentence that violates the free speech laws, then you address that sentence. You don't say this person can never speak again unless you're saying the thing they did means that they have to get put in prison. Cool. Then the consequences are what the consequences are. But taking them off of Instagram, full stop, dumb. When we're debanking people for doing things that we don't like politically, dumb. Yeah, I think that kind of thing is absolutely bananas. So I think the following statement is true. I might, upon further reflection, take it back, but I don't think so. If somebody murders somebody, it doesn't mean that you should debank them. They should go to prison. But if that person didn't violate the laws of the bank, like, I don't understand why they get debanked. So that to me is just super bizarre. People should be punished for the crimes they commit, but there shouldn't be like this really huge echo. Like, there's going to be enough cultural backlash, like you were saying with Diddy. There'll be enough cultural backlash that if he got convicted of a crime, he should go to jail for the crime that he was convicted of. But there shouldn't be this whole host of other like official sanctions against him. That's weird.
Bob Dylan released a statement late last night. Not the first, not the last. Today, a good many people will have you believe a punk band is the #1 threat to world peace. Last week, it was a Palestinian pressure group. The week before, it was another band. We are not for the death of Jews, Arabs, or any other race or
Did you just say Arabs?
Arabs.
Arabs. I'm pretty sure you're getting canceled now.
Oh, sorry.
I'm pretty sure, right?
A group of people. We are on for dismantling of a violent military machine, a machine whose own soldiers were told to use unnecessary lethal force against innocent civilians waiting for aid, a machine that has destroyed much of Gaza. We, like those in the spotlight before us, are not the story. We are a distraction from the story, and whatever sanctions we receive will be a distraction. The government doesn't want us to ask why they remain silent in the face of this atrocity, to ask why they aren't doing more to stop the killing, to feed the starving. The more they talk about Bob Dylan, the less time they spend answering for their criminal inaction. We are being targeted for speaking up. We are not the first. We will not be the last. And if you ever care for the sanctity of human life and freedom of speech, we urge you to speak up too. Free Palestine.
Yeah, free Palestine. Cool. Kill the IDF is where the problem begins. So, yeah. Anyway, this is the tug of war that you play with your artists. The artists in society, you want them pushing the boundaries and all that, but pushing the boundaries is about accepting the consequences of the boundary that you pushed. So there he is.
Yeah.
Got some consequences. And that's what makes this valid, essentially. But yeah, I think bad mojo to call for the killing of anybody.
Several people in chat are disagreeing with you, saying,
I'm shocked.
well, I guess free speech laws are dead, I guess. So
What? It is already in the Supreme Court precedent that you can't do an incitement for violence. So if people are saying, Tom, this is an incitement for violence because the IDF is an amorphous blob and there's no way that's crazy, okay, fair enough. Let it go to the Supreme Court and let's find out. But I really believe the next 10 years are going to be us battling for what are the value system that we're willing to stand up for. And yeah, so I'm all for not letting somebody into the country that is calling for the death of somebody else. And I would completely understand if another country didn't like something I said or somebody else said or whatever. Like, by the way, I have self-assumed that going to China would be a terrible idea for me. I'm not mad at China about that. It's like you got a guy over here popping off saying, hey, we got to be careful. Got to watch out for China. Like, I can only say that so many times before they're like, yeah, fuck this kid. I'm not mad about that. They've got to stand up for China. They don't have to worry about some podcaster in America. Fuck him. So yeah, I certainly not from a double standard perspective. Not that. You can disagree though. Love. Yay.
So just to stress test that, if the chant was changed from death to the IDF to stop the IDF, that doesn't cross the line for you?
Not at all. Not even slightly. Word. Let's go.
With you.
Like, people should speak up for the values that they believe in. 1,000%. Now it becomes, is that a value that I want in my country? That becomes the question that we have to ask. But for my money, if he said stop the IDF, I'd be like, cool. I don't have any beef with that. It's a very measured, reasonable stance to take. I'm here for it. I'm sure there are plenty of Jewish people that are like, stop the IDF. I'm sure there are people in Israel that are like, stop the IDF. So yeah. That doesn't even begin to make my radar. If people freaked out about somebody saying stop the IDF, I'd be like, what's happening right now? So people overtrust their own opinion. So yeah.
There is like a slippery slope to that. And this
free speech.
Yes. You say something we don't like, there are going to be consequences.
Yep.
Brutus Lugo throws it in the chat. Trump even announced that he can possibly talk about revoking citizenship from nationalized citizens if they commit a crime or if they do something. Commit a crime, I feel like
commit a crime, then of course somebody's going to come after you.
So like if somebody's been in the country for 10 years and they got pulled over for drunk.
Oh, should they get deported?
Yeah, their citizenship will be revoked.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were selling free speech. If you're a citizen from where I'm sitting, you're a citizen.
So nationalized citizens.
Well, that's going to be a big debate.
Okay.
So where do I come down on that? If you were born here to me, this is very easy. If you were born here, you're here. Simple as citizen, welcome, love you. If moving forward,
that means
we want to
birthright
say
citizenship as well. Like
yeah,
so
1,000%.
Your parents are immigrants, but you were born here. You're good.
1,000%.
Copy.
Tom Bilyeu's take.
Got it. Yeah.
Let's say that the Supreme Court decides that birthright citizenship no longer applies, like, hey, we're going to update our precedent on this. I'd want to see that moving forward. I would not want to see that moving backwards. And yes, that means that a whole bunch of people that came over in the last 4 years, open borders, there's going to be tens of thousands of people that had kids, maybe hundreds of, it is what it is. From I'm all for, if you've been here 5 or 10 years and you've been law abiding and you've been working and you've been paying taxes, I'm here for it. Give them some path, even if you make them pay a penalty or whatever, give them some path. But in terms of all the people that came over flooding over the border in the last 4 years, yes, I'm here for deportations. Is the right place to draw the line 5 years? Is the right place to draw the line 10 years? I don't know. Let people debate about that. I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it. But there is like a point at which it's like, bro, you've been here for a minute. You've been doing good things. You're contributing to the society. I'm here for it. But we do need to be like black and white about moving forward. What are the values that we want to actively import into America? That's going to be the question.
Yeah. I think America is being really trigger sensitive because of what's happening in Britain and like what we see internationally. But I think fundamentally America's not going through that same like eradication. I think that college
eradication, what do you mean?
Of like our cultures in the same way. For example,
we're not being torn apart as much.
Yeah, when people see Britain and they see the street filled with Muslims outside, we're like, see, they're invading Britain. This is why Britons can't live.
Some are. So just to be clear, as I talk about this more and more, I am going to need people to understand. I don't care what religion somebody is. I don't care what they look like for sure. I don't care what country they were born in. What I care about is what values do you have. So if you come here and you're like, man, everybody should be able to practice their own religion. I'm not trying to put my religion on somebody. Man, there should be a separation of church and state. I don't want to see my religion find its way into the laws of this country. Man, I believe in freedom. I believe in free speech. I believe in capitalism. Dude, I'm here for it. Literally, I couldn't care less what religion you are, blah, blah, blah. If, on the other hand, you're like, my religion should be baked into the laws, now we got a problem. If you are violent, got a problem with it. We got enough of that homegrown. Don't need more of it. Mm-hmm. So if you are a socialist or a communist, not here for that very aggressively. So yeah, those are not things I would want to see us import. That is for sure.
Yeah. I feel like America has been able to handle our wave of immigrants. We've been having immigration since the inception of the country. I think immigration is one of the things that make America great, because I think it was Reagan who said that you can go to Germany, you'll never be a German. You go to Japan, you'll never be Japan. But America's the only place you go to America and you could become an American.
Yeah, I love that.
But
now, does American mean something? And if it does mean something, what does it mean to be an American? To simply have a citizenship, or to adopt a culture? And if to adopt a culture, then are you adopting, or what culture are you adopting? And I'm saying America has a culture. Mm-hmm. It is a knowable, articulatable culture. And even though I'm not Christian, it's built on the back of a Judeo-Christian ethic, a puritanic work ethic, capitalist society, freedom of speech, private property. Like, those are all, separation of church and state. Like, those are all the things that make up America. Now, if you're a foreign-born American, I literally do not care what you look like. That does not matter to me in the fucking slightest. I don't care where you were born. You could be a foreign-born American from Mogadishu. You could be a foreign-born American from Australia. You could be a foreign-born American from France, from Germany, from Japan, China, whatever. Like, if we share those core values, I'm here for it. Love it the most. But I think Thomas Sowell is right that there is nothing that has been put forward as a true statement with absolutely no backing evidence more aggressively than the idea that diversity is our greatest strength. Diversity is the thing that we overcome. And if that diversity is the hormetic stress that we become stronger by overcoming, I'm open to that. But hormesis is the idea that you took some damage. You tore the muscle a little bit. It just happened to grow back stronger. Mm-hmm. But to act like diversity isn't problematic, I think is crazy town. Diversity creates stress. Diversity creates friction. Now, I'm saying that when you share core values and then you have that friction at a much more surface level, that's awesome. Because now you get people challenging each other. You get dynamic tension between the opposing forces. That is awesome. But when you have diversity at core values, you are in fucking trouble. And I don't think people are making the distinction between those two things, and it is going to be a problem. And part of the reason I think that we've done so well with immigration is, I think the following statement is true. In the last 50 years, for sure, please fact check me, in the last 50 years, I think the thing that we have imported at just the most rapid rate you could import something is people from South America who are just so likely to be Catholic. And so now, again, Judeo-Christian ethic, cool, nice and easy, assimilate, no problem. And by the way, for a long time, it really felt like the people were coming, they were coming for opportunity. So people are coming for opportunity. They're down for private property, freedom of speech, capitalism, and they can seamlessly live with people that have a Judeo-Christian ethic, as I consider myself certainly to be able to do. Yay. If they can't, you're going to have a problem. People kill over values, Drew. They kill. They murder people over values.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not what's happening. And that's my beef.
That's not what's happening in the U.S.?
Yeah, because right now we're not going after the people that don't have differing values. We're not even going after criminals. We're going after the low-hanging fruit.
So you're talking about deportation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the people that are coming in, immigration, even like Brutus Lugo shouted out the 500K Haitians that just lost their immigrant status. Like what that means, those 500K, they didn't go over the border, they didn't sneak by Mexico, they didn't climb a ravine. Those people got on airplanes, came here with visas. So it's one of those things that like, whether it was Biden 4 years ago, whatever like that, there was a policy that said, hey, you guys can come here. We're welcome as long as you have family here. You have to live with a family. Somebody else will take care of you. This is not a government handout subsidy type thing. Like you literally have to have somebody in America that can vouch for you, that has a home that you can live in, that you'll stay there for 6 months. You'll have to get a job within 8. There were all these stipulations. These people sold property and stuff, moved to America, did all these things that they were supposed to do in this system that was established. Somehow with the rhetoric that happened over the last election, it now became anybody that came into this country is now a criminal, illegal rapist. And a lot of people that have been doing the right things, that are registered on the system, they now got their status revoked. They're now getting punished and chased out, where the people that are the criminals, rapists, and things like that, who don't have official jobs, who have came in here illegally, we still haven't even isolated and got them. So I think the people that have done things the right way are now being penalized the most versus the people that might not have done the things that are off the book that have snuck across. So where Trump is getting a win, like, yeah, I'm deporting all these people. Look at me, the people that I'm sending over. Like, you're not sending over the people that you thought were the threat. You're sending over the people that for the last 5, 7, X amount of years have been registered property, did all the things that were right. So I just think the implementation of these immigration policies is not what's actually happening, even though the rhetoric might say something differently.
Drew for president. Yeah, I don't have a single bit of beef with that. So what I don't want people doing is getting hung up on the drama of the deportations being handled poorly. By all means, what you just put forward, I think makes a lot of sense. Focus on criminals. Do not target people that came here under a policy. You can hate the policy, but it was a policy. They came over on it. They are doing the things that make them citizens that are contributing to America. These are not the people that we go after. And it sure as hell isn't the place we start. Yep, I'm on board. You got my vote. But I think people are going to get lost in that argument rather than looking at the real prize, which is America's going to have to decide what it stands for. Europe did not do that, and Europe is paying a price. And so you now have to figure out, does it mean something to be American? And if it does, we're going to need to say out loud what that thing is. I've rattled it off like 3 times in the last 20 minutes. So I'm certainly not trying to hide behind anything. Those are the things that I'm going to be checking people against. And we have to be very thoughtful about what we import on a go forward basis. So yeah, honestly, from a influx of immigrants problem, that's more of an economic concern for me than it is from a cultural concern, assuming you get the criminals out. Now it's like on a go forward basis, let's just make sure that we know who are the people that we're seeking from all around the world. Because when we say that we're a country of immigrants, remember, it used to be a ton of you died just on the boat ride over. When you got here, there was no one that was going to take care of you. You just had to figure out a way to survive. Now, when that's the game you're playing, word. When the game you're playing is no one left behind, you can't fucking like call people from around the world, because now people are going to be like, yes, please, I will take all the handouts that you can give me, and then we will have to print money, and then we will end up in civil war. It's just that playbook is so clear. So that's dumb. It's dumb at the level of physics.
Yeah, it's interesting.
No, go on the attack. Tell me why that's stupid. Like, let's get into it.
I don't have an attack. I just think that because I'm not looking at what it should be or what it ought to be. I'm looking for what is. And what is happening now is people who had protected statuses, people who have done the right thing are getting penalized right now. And I think that this is, unfortunately, this is a reoccurring thing that's happening in society right now, because the people that followed the rules, walked in line, did the things they're supposed to do are now, when it's time to cash in my American Dream check, I'm now getting an IOU. Yes. Or, sorry, it only mattered with the last president. This new president doesn't matter anymore. You got to get out. And it's just things that's like, well, okay, this person is coming from a shitty country, right? They sold everything to come to America to get a job. They're doing what they have to do. And then now they're being revoked. And it's just like, dang, sorry, bro. It is what it is. And it's like, now I'm not even going back to my country at square one. I'm going back -3 because I just did all these things to get over here because I thought this opportunity was going to last more than 8 weeks or, whatever or 8 months from the end of last year to Trump's inauguration till this law being passed.
But let me ask the magic question. And now what?
And now what in the sense of?
Like, give me the prescription. You've convinced me that you see that right. That the way that we're pursuing the people who are doing all the right things, that did things the legal way, and they're getting booted first because they're easier to find and get a hold of, I'm totally on board. But now what?
They should not have their statuses revoked. Those people should be allowed to stay. If you came here, and that's the thing. If these people are...
So you only care about, let's make sure that we address the people that are being booted out right now. That's what matters. I don't care about the next 10 years, how we define our values or anything like that.
Just like you said, right? The problem with immigration is that we have bad guys coming over. We have people that don't share our cultural values. We have people that are criminals. We're getting the worst of the situations, right? So why don't we get those people that are the worst of the worst? Why don't we get the people with the criminal records, the people that like that? So that's where the disproportionate force is happening. And Trump is getting a win, quote unquote, because he's using masked ICE agents to go into Home Depots and grab people up and ship them away. And he's high-fiving, saying, look, we got him. But Joe Rogan even said it, like, if he would have said, I'm going to go after Home Depot, childcare, car washes, and I'm going to get all those people would have been like, what? No, like, go. I thought you were going after the criminals.
That's why I don't think this is a win. I think he's hurting himself with that. I think that this is going to, over time, this is really going to bother people. And the reality is that what isn't being talked about is the thing that really has cause and effect here. Immigration is an economic issue. You are up against economics, but people don't understand economics. They feel economics. So the reality is that we went from this notion that America is a nation of immigrants, and so give me all your immigrants, forgetting that in the beginning there wasn't the social welfare programs that there are now. And so now we've become the world's safety net. And so, hey, come here if you want to reap the benefits. Same thing that's happened across the UK. You've got all these cultures that, turn themselves into socialist nations to take care of their people and then open their borders. It's the most suicidal, stupid thing that you can do, because of course people are going to take advantage of that, but you don't have enough people paying into the system to take care of them. So what do you have to do? You have to take on debt and money printing. What does debt and money printing do? It creates inequality. What does inequality do? It makes people react emotionally. Okay, so now you have a setup where people are emotional. Guess what happens when people are emotional? They become xenophobic. And so now you're saying, hey, you have people in here and they legitimately are draining your financial resources. They really are a problem. But now it's just easy to identify. You're one of those people from somewhere else. Get the fuck out. And so you're going to see more and more racism, xenophobia, people lashing out, violence, all of this stuff. But it has an economic cause that nobody's talking about. And so this is why I'm like, you cannot both have open borders and be a social safety net. And I get that the compassionate thing to do in the very short term is to take care of everybody. The problem is it is a barnacle setup that will drown the turtle. America is the turtle. The social safety net are the barnacles. We're already underwater. We have already taken our last breath. And so it's just a question of, at a cellular level, when does the breakdown occur? But I want to be very clear to everybody. If you don't change your deficit spending, you will go bankrupt. That isn't a question. That is a mathematical certainty. I don't know more words to say around. It's happening. It's already happening. We are already underwater. We're already holding our breath. Eventually, you will die of what? Hypoxia? No. Apoxia? Whatever. You're going to die of a lack of oxygen. And that oxygen is money.
And that's why the Big Beautiful Bill is a terrible idea, because it increases the deficit.
Correct. But that's also why you are in a position where Trump is doing something that's only going to exacerbate the problem. But you have to deport people just in a better way. So if people aren't talking about the economic reality of where we're at, we're just not even having a real conversation. It's just emotion. And I understand the emotion. I get it. But there are physics to money. And so watching people do these really short-term decisions because it makes them feel more compassionate, instead of being like, I understand that if we don't reduce the burden on the system, everyone goes down.
Yeah. Kip Moon, I think at the very minimum, there should be mandatory integration and language courses if they want TPS to become permanent. We have imported 13% of our total U.S. population in 10 years, many of most who are going to get social services and continue to massively increase the debt. I can at least talk to the 500K Haitians that came in. That was not the case. They don't get social services. The whole impetus of the program is you have to, one, pay to come over, two, you have to have family that's going to take care of you, and you have to have a job in the first 3 months. It's kind of like when you get out of a job, like they have like COs and things like that.
But I can't speak to the Haitians. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But there was a breakdown in certainly California. Illegal immigrants and what are the benefits that they qualify for? It's pretty startling. Illegals, like known illegals, qualify for a certain number of.
Then why don't we deport from that way? Why don't we go to the Social Security offices, see who's getting a check that's not legal, and why don't we deport those people? Why don't we go to the wherever these magical dollars are coming from, the people that get free houses? Let's go to the free houses and then talk to those people. But it seems we're going to people who are working, who are getting the 9-to-5s, who are doing this, and now because they're
I love that, man. And if this is the drum that you're going to beat, I will dance to the rhythm.
Yeah.
I totally get it. I totally hear you.
Temporary
I totally
temporary.
agree.
Get them out of America, guys. I hear you.
So yeah, like do it in the right order. Go after the violent criminals. Get them out. Also, just cut off public services would be a nice, easy one in the interim, so that you don't continue to have a draw. But that's not where we're at. We've got sanctuary cities. We've got states that are like, I'm going to fight against the federal government as hard as I need to. We're going to keep paying for these people. You will get to the point where they're going to start to, this is just a prognostication, but you're going to get to the point where places like California, LA are going to prioritize illegal immigrants just to make a fucking point. So it's going to get weird because people don't believe that we'll actually go broke, and we will.
Pookie, are you saying that's what's going to happen? They said, take out the working ones and the non-workers will deport themselves. I am just guessing at the issue.
Sorry, read that again. I was looking at the Palantir comment.
They
Marcos,
said,
we'll get to you.
Take out the working ones and the non-workers will deport themselves, ? I am just guessing at the issue.
Yeah, I mean, look, that might be the knock-on effect, but there is a brutal psychological thing to watching the people. Because remember, like being illegal doesn't make you not awesome. So there are a whole bunch of people that know somebody who's illegal and they love them and they care about them and they're invested in their human story and their kids and all of that stuff. And I get when you step back to the spreadsheet that it's like, yeah, fuck them. But the reality is on the ground, like these are people that have love and friends and all of that. And they're lovely people and they're contributing in like emotional ways. I'm sure not all of them, but like you've got to be thoughtful about how you engage with this at the level of reality. So even if the knock-on effect is go after the low-hanging fruit, like Drew is saying, the people that are doing all the right things, and hey, then everybody else is going to self-deport. Even if it worked that way, it will do psychological damage to the country. So you have to be very careful. It's just like what I'm seeing happen in Gaza. Bro, you just can't fucking level it like that. That's just bad mojo. And when I say you can't, obviously you can, but boy, is that going to be a dark cloud for a very long time. You're going to create a lot of animosity. So no easy solutions, only trade-offs, but there's some pretty gnarly trade-offs when you start going down that road.
Lyric said self-deport is so much easier, and then you give time to get things in order. Then you buy your plane ticket and pay you $1,000 on your way out. Media should encourage that.
Yeah, they won't, but you're right. Also, I think that if you cut off access to any services whatsoever, you put yourself in a much better position.
Honestly, and then Lyra said, because then they can make their way back in the legal way. Temporary protective status is a legal way to come to America. That's how they got through. Again, that's the problem with the immigration debate, is because we're saying everybody not American is illegal, and we think they all came over Mexico. There's 6 different classes of people that have visas and citizenship. So it's not, when we say we're going to get all the illegals out, you're just talking about people who are not nationalized citizens or American citizens. But the thing is, there's different classes of people. There are people who, yes, were cartels snuck in here. There are people with sex trafficking. There are bad actors from foreign countries that are spies that are trying to take over. And then there are people who have work visas, who applied to government programs, got approved from that government program, was able to get on a plane, come through customs, walk into America. Those people aren't illegals. They're not people that are trying to putting the strain on the system that we think these other people's are. And I think lumping them together is a thing that Trump has made it seem like this is a bigger problem. To my opinion than it actually is.
As long as people understand at that moment you've switched into talking about a populist phenomena, that populism has to do with inequality, inequality has to do with debt and money printing, like that sequence of events has got to be front and center in people's minds. It is inevitable that basically any leader right now, whether you're Mamdani, whether you're Trump, you are going to appeal to your base. You are going to be a strong man. You're going to tell other people to fuck off. You're going to slap somebody in the mouth just to make other people happy that, yeah, you're my tough guy. So, I mean, brace yourselves, because you are going to see a wave of xenophobia that was like in 2020 when anybody who looked even remotely Asian was getting like shtick on the streets because people were just so mad. You're going to see that. It's going to be completely irrational. And man, do I hope everyone in this community is doing everything in their power not to be like that. Stick to the facts, stick to cause and effect, figure out what's actually going on. And never lose your humanity.
Yeah.
That's just a good piece of advice.
I don't think people realize who's actually getting deported. You guys should take another look at that. I don't have time to educate. We got 12 more minutes.
Drew, we always have time to educate. My beloved community. Drew is not feeling good about this.
No, and then Marusha Dark says, Drew, how would you turn Haiti into a first world country? Maybe we should stop overthrowing their president. Research the assassination of the Haitian president, who did the assassination, and how the gangs in Haiti started. And I could tell you it wasn't Haitians who did it. Ifto facto.
Yes.
I need to borrow the deep dive for like 1 week. I have my Haitian conspiracy.
You want to point me at a topic, or you are going to write again?
Because I got a take on this thing, and I could give you my take, and I feel like you won't see.
Why don't you write one?
I'm telling you, I got one, because I feel like, you know how we talk about like coups and how like regime changes and things like that?
Yes.
There has been 6 of those in Haiti.
Yeah.
Since 1913.
And all of them have been, I'll round it to CIA, but like.
And then the last,
what is the U.S. government trying to get out of Haiti?
Man, that's why the deep dive makes it so good.
But real fast, give us like the high level. Is there a resource we want?
Yeah, it's the same. It's natural resources.
What is it though?
I don't know the specific resource, because the first one started when it was cane, and it used to be cane, sugar, tobacco plantations. Then it turned to coal and charcoal in like the 40s or something like that. I don't know what the 2020s version of that is, but every couple of years.
Does Haiti share? Is Haiti its own island? Like Haiti is the full?
Shares it with the Dominican Republic.
Yeah,
split down the middle. It was Espanola. That's where Christopher Columbus landed.
Bro, I'm reading about Christopher Columbus right now. Yo, he was wild. He was wild. Drew, there was one story where these 2 Spanish soldiers came across these 2 boys with a parrot, and they're like, "Oh, cool. We're going to take the parrot. Oh, and by the way, for fun, we're going to behead both of you." That's what it was like.
I didn't tell you about the first conquest when they first arrived in the.
Oh, literally. I've read the journal entries of Christopher Columbus. They're insane. Like, hey, these people, they'll grab our swords because they don't understand metal. With 50 soldiers, I could conquer this whole island and send you back as many slaves as you want. Like, nuts. And P.S. he thought he was in China.
Ooh.
So also crazy.
Please. I love it. I love when misinformation gets people, because everybody thinks I'm dumb and I'm just emotional. Yes, I love it. Just think I'm a dumb emotional person. This is my dumb emotional hill to die on. I love it.
All right. Are they weird about Haiti?
Yeah, nobody wants Haiti. Haiti's like, nobody wants sugar anymore, bro. Like, that's not what happened. It's cool.
Right.
It's cool,
I'll
bro.
have to look into it. I like me a good conspiracy.
All right.
There was something on here. I told somebody we'd get back to them. We've got Alligator Alcatraz. That'll be fun to talk about. But the other one was...
we didn't talk about the UPenn trans stuff.
Oh, man. I said we'd get back to you. Damn it.
Was it? No, I thought we did with the lyric and the gaming. And then we had the...
Palantir. There we go. So I haven't looked super close at Palantir. Anybody that is spying on the American people is going to make me deeply uncomfortable. And at the same time, we have to do things to keep our streets safe. People feeling safe in their own country is like paramount. That can go all the way to China, where it's like, hey, no, we're just keeping you safe, but like you can't have those cookies because that's not going to be safe for you. And since we control the money supply, sorry, you literally can't buy them. And any interaction, we're going to give you a social credit score. So it can go all the way to where it's absolute madness. So Palantir is the most greased of slippery slopes. And so, yeah, we got to be super careful. but you can't just be like, don't pay attention to anything. So whether it's the anonymization of data or whatever, I don't know what the answer is going to be, but you live in a world where you cannot afford to be technologically blind, and that the technological all-seeing eye of Sauron is also how you immediately get digital tyranny. So, man, this one's going to be tough. Yep. Be careful. Eyes wide open. Hold people accountable. Make sure we know as much as we can about what's being done. That's going to be critical.
How do you feel about that trade-off between safety and like national security? Because this is
I'm a big believer in the quote that anybody that will trade freedom for safety deserves neither, or whatever the exact quote is. Yeah, you have to be very careful. But there are people in the world that want to kill you and can kill you at a scale that the person that wrote that quote just doesn't understand. So there needs to be some pointing externally. I'm 100% for. How we do internal spying becomes the question. I think that everyone needs to know what's being done. I think that's pretty important. How it's being done, maybe you need to keep that kind of thing a secret, but people need to know when they are and are not in a private space. Anonymizing data, things like that, I think are pretty important. I think people still need a warrant. Like the government should need a warrant to know if it's you that's doing something, that they know a thing has been done. And then they have to go through the warrant process to prove probable cause and all of that. Like that, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, this is a very slippery slope that will lead in tyranny very, very rapidly. As a default, I lean more freedom than I lean safety. So my default stance is that, but I'm trying not to be naive about the world that we live in with the kind of threats that we now face from somebody architecting bio warfare and then sending it over. You just had a dry run with COVID. I'll assume it was done on accident, but you can get pretty hardcore with that stuff.
Somebody asked if you had a direct line to the president, what would be the one thing you would like tell them? Like if you had the Candace Owens line to Mr. President, you'd be like, hey, Mr. President.
Obviously, I would just be 100% talking about the economics of the situation. So you are on a one-way path to bankruptcy, and you absolutely must understand that historically bankruptcy equals bloodshed. And so you've got to find a way to stop that. If you start pulling the levers now, you really can enact a beautiful deleveraging. If you focus on re-election, this madness is never going to end. So I would just beat that drum. Now, the reality is he obviously knows how to play the political game, so I don't expect him to listen. But if you can at least just beat that drum and hope that he finds an avenue of how he can interject it into the political realities. But that's where, Marushia, you're right. Prison equals perfect security, but zero freedom.
What's the Friday
thing? Did he?
Yeah.
Had to be did.
Come on,
we
come
talked
on,
about it
Give
earlier.
it to us. Hop in here.
Yeah, you need to brace yourself.
Ooh, I know. I wasn't sure if you guys spoke about it.
You also have to talk about alligator Alcatraz, though. That's going to be the only catch. So but go.
No, we're joking. Good.
Yeah, he's been found not guilty on 3 counts. And
There were
guilty
5?
Yeah.
So he's on 2.
Yeah, which is sex trafficking, which is like the... that's the one that they had the concrete evidence because they just had receipts. So they have a bunch of receipts.
What do you think he's going to be sentenced to? How many years?
I don't have it in front of me, but he's already cleared for lifetime. He won't get life sentence. They're actually looking for him to be released today, is what the
Released?
Yeah.
What do you mean released?
On $1 million bail, because the things that he's been
between now and
charged.
sentencing?
Yeah, because what he's been charged with, it's like, again, I don't have it right in front
Like
of me.
the really serious
Yeah,
ones.
I'm trying to find.
He's been cleared, yeah. So I really...
And you think this is a miscarriage of justice?
So I never want someone to be arrested or put in prison if they didn't do it.
Yep.
So I'm not that person that just jumps on the bandwagon because he's a guy and my hair's like a state, oh my God. Because he's a guy and someone's saying it. Like, I want to make sure that I'm always very emotionally sober and non-biased when it comes to these sorts of things. But, babe, there's so much visual evidence of the crap he's done. The problem is it a federal crime?
But are the things that he's done, are they the 2 things that he was convicted on? Or do you think there was a literal miscarriage of justice and either somebody got to the jurors or they're dumb?
No, I don't think. I think it's biasness. When you look at, there's 8, and let me know if you guys are interested, but there's, out of the whole jury, 8 of them are men. Obviously, we have.
So you think men can't be trusted?
No, don't put words in my. Guys, I deal with this all
That's
the
what
time.
I heard.
I did not say that. You do not put.
So,
it's
but
just
why
that we
are they
we have
biased just because they're men?
I mean, we have a different perspective, I think, on sexual encounters. And one of the things, so I actually interviewed, God, I think it was Andrew Bustamante, CIA spy. But I think he was the one that actually said you have to think about also, for instance, age. A lot of the men were over 50. Now, when you look at, again, you've probably got older men here, so I'm not saying everyone's like this, but you perceive consent slightly differently. So it's like, well, I grabbed her ass. Like growing up, that's what men were like. If you get on the tube, now men don't do that, at least in my experience. So men also have a different, so the age, the fact that they're male, does it contribute? Yes. I think also the final thing is, I'm not gonna get into details on this because last time you guys went after me, but coercive control. Coercive control isn't currently illegal in New York.
Oh, praise Jesus.
Don't get me started, Bilyeu.
Don't get me started.
I will fight this one. So coercive control isn't illegal, but it is illegal in the UK now. It is illegal, I think, in certain states. So that's even another thing. It's like, it's illegal, but only some places. It just so happens that the case was in New York, and so it's not considered illegal. So they weren't able to charge him or accuse him of coercive control. So I think putting all those elements together is what I think has contributed to the results today.
Man.
This is going to be wild. Like, if he doesn't go to jail at all, that will be wild.
So in essence, what do you think the second order consequences of this? Because I remember I stuck in for that one episode I sat in when you did the Diddy series on Women in Impact. Make sure everybody goes watch it.
Got a series out. Yeah, we covered everything.
But I remember you said it took so much courage. Like, women were discouraged from coming forward. And they thought because Cassie was the first domino, other people kind of started. Do you think that this not guilty verdict would kind of have an opposite effect of that?
I'm so glad you brought this up because so I'm about to shoot a verdict episode right after you guys are done. And that's one of the things. I'm like, women already have a trouble speaking up and coming out when somebody has done something, especially when you're powerful. What does this say? So look, they're saying now that Diddy will be charged in civil lawsuit. There's going to be something like 200 civil lawsuits against him where they're just going to sue him. But that's money that's very different than you are going to prison because you have abused women. So I think I do worry that a lot of women are going to stay silent, especially when it comes to power, because they're like, well, look what happened. Why would I speak up? Go on the stand. It's like Jane. Jane is the pseudonym for his ex-girlfriend. Well, like, she had to put her name, well, not had to, but she chose to put her name, not have her name out. Why? Because if something like this happens, who's going to come after her now? So Cassie had so much strength and confidence to speak out after all that time, but how many women now are going to be silenced because of this? That's what I'm really worried about.
Crazy. It's going to be interesting to see. All
I've
right.
got to go get ready.
We didn't quite get to alligator Alcatraz, sadly.
know what
we'll have
that
to get
is.
to that next time. Yeah, it's wild. Trump built they built it in Florida for detaining, is it immigrants?
Yeah, like
so,
ICE detention center.
Yeah.
What's
and
the
they've
alligator?
literally surrounded it with alligators. Like, they actually went and scooped up
No,
alligators
they
to transport to make sure that people couldn't escape. Yes, they absolutely
that's
did.
all drama so that you can talk about it. There's not.
What are we doing? Exactly. What are we doing?
So we're talking about it.
What are we doing? Our kids are the 17th dumbest in the world, but let's get some alligators. Let's keep them in here. Like, what
That's what we should be focusing on.
We're taking the alligators. Anyway, fascinating.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Love you all. Thank you for being here. We are going to be going live tomorrow. Because of the holiday, July 4th. We will not be live on Friday. Everybody. So join us tomorrow for a special live again, 6 a.m. Pacific, like normal. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace. Have a great one. Later.